the one God made, and that's the truth. But man, keep on trying to hold me back while another chicken head come home to lose. Just don't try to do me wrong, and the last one standing will order and command you to dance. Oh, dance.
Well, tell your preacher and your teacher I'ma give you what you love.
Good afternoon. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and I am on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 1 to 4 p.m. Listen, we have a packed show today. On the third hour, I'll have time to delve into a little bit of the news, but from 1 to 3, honey, Mother is going right at it. And so we're just going to go ahead and get started with Amelia Carter, who is organizing a group called Penn Community for Justice, which is attempting to hold Penn accountable for the exploitative relationship with the West Philadelphia community. Amelia, are you there?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Good, I can. You sound a little low. So I just want to make sure from the studio perspective that people can hear you. Mike will be able to fix that on his end, though. Thank you, by the way, to Mike, who is in the studios doing everything that he's doing while I'm able to operate from home. So I want to let you know, Michael, that I appreciate you from the rooter to the tutor. All right, Amelia. So you wanted to talk today because you are demanding that Penn, a tax-exempt multi-billion-dollar nonprofit, pay pilots into the public school system, and that Penn police, who have participated in the over-policing of their communities, be defunded. So do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are and why you're doing this?
Yes. So I'm a staff person at Penn. I've worked at Penn for 8 years. I'm from Philadelphia, and I live in the Cobb Creek area, just a half a block from 52nd Street. So like many people, after George Floyd's murder and the kind of widespread protests that took over the nation, I became more invested in being more self-reflective of the ways in which I could be holding the institutions and communities that I am a part of more accountable for the anti-Blackness and white supremacy that they uphold. Oftentimes, unconsciously, especially in these liberal educational environments, people often feel that they are the opposite of white supremacists and racists, but actually a lot of the policies and the ways we interact with Black communities in Philadelphia are deeply embedded in white supremacy. So one of those ways is the fact that Penn, which is, as you mentioned, a multi-billion-dollar nonprofit organization, refuses to pay pilots, even though they have directly benefited off of the exploitation of Philadelphia's Black and brown communities. One thing in particular that UCJ thinks about and looks at is this idea of gentrification, which is the university-driven gentrification of West Philadelphia, specifically looking at the complete demolishing of what was once known as the Black Bottom, which is now completely owned by Penn and Drexel. So through this gentrification process, Penn has amassed billions of dollars in wealth and annually millions and millions of dollars in profits through the fact that they've monopolized the rental market, for instance, and can charge exorbitantly high rents to students now off of that once taxable land. But now that they own the land, it is now tax exempt. They do not pay any property taxes, which amounts to about $90 million in
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So a couple of things, Amelia. There's an echo in your background. Is there a radio or something on close to you? If it is, turn it down for me, please, because what you're talking about is incredibly important, and we want the people to hear you clearly. Okay.
Yes, I'll try to. I'm not sure where the echo is coming from. Oh, I do have you on speaker, so maybe I'll take you off speaker.
That's it. Yes. Please. Let me see if that's better.
Okay. Is this better?
much. Yes. Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right. So a few weeks ago, I had a conversation with someone else, a very similar conversation about Penn and what they charge for tuition and what that means to the people that are living in the community and that they pay no taxes and that since they're not paying taxes, that they should be able to give back in ways that you don't see happening.
Right.
The Penn Community for Justice, you're talking about the city council hearings on police response to uprising and protest, right?
Yes.
And you provided testimony for that. The NAACP lawsuit, you're a complainant. What's the NAACP lawsuit about?
It's about the fact that on May 31st, when the Philadelphia Police Department came to 52nd Street to, quote unquote, do kind of crowd control for riots that were happening, they actually arrived, and many eyewitnesses can attest to this, before any significant rioting or property damage occurred. But yet they didn't prevent any damage from happening. What they did do was occupy the neighborhood for several hours and perpetuate some of the worst forms of police brutality that I've ever witnessed in my life. So both the NAACP lawsuit as well as the city council hearing looked at these issues and is trying to basically hold the Philadelphia police accountable and make sure that we start to work towards the demilitarization of the police force at the least, if not really looking at the over-policing issue and working to defund the Philadelphia police. That's at least what me and a lot of the people in my community are looking at and wanting. A disinvestment from the policing system and an investment in community sources.
Right. So,
and I was just going to add that Penn Police and Drexel Police were there that day. We're finding it very difficult to hold them accountable for the fact that they assisted the Philadelphia police in the crackdown that happened that day because
so wait
they
a
are
minute.
a private police force.
Just so I am understanding you correctly, you're saying that there was a crackdown on citizenry by the Philadelphia Police Department and that Penn Police and Drexel Police were also a part of that, but you're finding it difficult to hold them accountable?
Yes, because they are a private police force.
Okay. And did anyone reach out to Penn or Drexel to let them know? I'm sure they were aware at this point what took place there. Have they said or done anything that would stand in the gap for the citizenry as a direct result of these city council hearings? I know what you're talking about, by the way. I remember that day because I was out there. And it was frightening. Myself and Sherry Gregg were both out there that day. And so have you heard from Penn or Drexel in response to what you all are asking for, holding their police departments accountable?
At first, they were not acknowledging that they were there that day, and then when we started to release photographs that residents had taken, catching them in the act, they finally started an email campaign demanding that they address the issue. They acknowledged their presence. They very much downplayed it and said that they were there helping people. They were like one of the good guys in the midst of all the bad guys. But then we also started to release images of Drexel Police in particular roughing up a local resident who had fallen on the ground and was being attacked. And once we released that image, they were finally starting to kind of admit, or at least Drexel, that they weren't necessarily right in their presence that day, but they also didn't admit any wrongdoing. And then Penn has started a public safety review process, which we participated in and gave testimony for, demanding that Penn Police be defunded and that public safety the Public Safety Department be reassessed so that we can start to implement police-free alternatives to public safety. And we're still awaiting the end result of that process, the report, to come out so that we can see if Penn is actually going to take steps to heed a lot of what the community asked for, which is police-free alternatives to public safety.
So you have been organizing your work with the Penn Community for Justice. What is the end game here? What exactly in black and white are you looking for from Penn and as a byproduct, Drexel, because they're in your community, to support what's happening there? The people that are living there, you're talking about insane rent is this for the students or just for the residents in that area, or both?
Both. I mean, I think that they have monopolized the land after that land grab in the 50s and 60s, especially with the Black Bottom neighborhood, but with many others that were in the West Philadelphia, what is now considered University City, part of West Philadelphia. And the gentrification of that, hyper-gentrification of that area has spread out and is starting to trickle into other neighborhoods as far away as Cobb Creek. And I think that seeing Penn Police on 52nd Street that day is a testament to that. We are significantly far from Penn's campus and the patrol area, so the fact that Penn Police thought it justifiable to come all the way up here to participate in policing is a bit alarming and starts to indicate the spread of Penn's gentrification, because 10 years ago when I was in high school, or 15 years ago, the cutoff area was like 40th Street, and then it spread to 45th, and then 49th, and now it's kind of up to 51st. By cutoff area, I mean the area in which Penn actively tells students don't walk past this area, because then you're in the Badlands. That's essentially what they tell people. And this kind of perpetuates a divide between an us versus them, and really stokes racialized fears that white, wealthy people who have never oftentimes even lived in urban areas have about black people and about urban settings. And so they play on that, and they prey on that, and that is how then parents of these people can justify paying $2,500 for an apartment for their student, because the way that it's pitched to them is turned into a life or death issue. But in terms of
$2,500 a month. One second, Amelia. $2,500 a month.
Yes, yeah, that's like probably a steal for a 2-bedroom or even a 1-bedroom sometimes. It's very expensive, the rents that are in the Penn kind of catchment area. But in terms of the demands of what we're specifically asking for is we want, and this is very much aligned with many other groups who are calling for these things, we want Penn to pay pilots payments in lieu of taxes into the Education Equity Fund, as mentioned. We want them to divest from industries that are harmful to black and brown communities, which would include the prison industrial complex and fossil fuels and so on, which we know disproportionately affects black and brown communities, but that Penn is actively profiting off of by their investments. We want Penn Police to be defunded, and we want the Public Safety Department to work towards police-free alternatives for public safety. And we want Penn to establish an open dialogue with the Philadelphia community and develop a way to address the harm that they have perpetuated against the community. And we want Penn to also democratize their amassed resources to serve the community. As like a very small example of this would be making some of our library resources more open and available to the public, and things of this nature.
So what can the WURD listening audience do to support you in that movement?
Well, I would love for folks to find us on Instagram at Penn for Justice, or on Facebook at Penn Community for Justice. We have an online forum of more than 3,500 members, where we are posting, conversation and dialogue with each other and trying to build towards achieving these goals. We're also organizing protests and things like that. So if you find us on social media and follow us, you can know when you're able to join in. And if you're part of an organization, we would love to work with you so you can email us. And we also have a fundraiser right now. We're trying to make some public programs and online videos kind of explaining these issues and exploring these issues to educate the public. So our fundraiser is at, to fund these programs is at fundraiser, FUNDRAZR.com/pen4justice. So if you have $10 to give or something like that, we would love to have your support.
So say that again for me, please. FUNDRAIZER?
No, it's spelled a little weird. It's FUNDRAZR.com/pen, PENN, 4FOR, justice, JUSTICE.
Okay, and the email address where you can be reached?
At pen4justice@gmail.com. So that's PENN4JUSTICE at gmail.com.
So pen4justice@gmail.com.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'd like to revisit this conversation at some point with you because this is not the first time I've had it here on The Source talking about what's happening in that community. And we were doing a neighborhood tour over the summer, and we talked about the Bottoms and Cobbs Creek and all of that, and some of that conversation came up. And so what we want to make sure is that while these universities are here and doing what they're supposed to do and educating our young people across the country, we also want to make sure that the residents that live in those communities still feel like they're a viable part of it and that their voices are being heard, on top, with everything that's happening there. So Amelia Carter, I want to thank you so much for calling in today.
Thank you.
Touch base. You're quite welcome, my sister. You're quite welcome. Have a good one, okay?
You too. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
All right. Bye-bye. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we will be right back after these messages.
Reverend Tyler, with November 3rd around the corner, do you know how you'll be voting this year?
Dr. Callahan, I requested my mail-in ballot, and I'm returning it the day it comes in the mail.
That's perfect, because we can't leave anything to chance this year.
Already received your mail-in ballot? You're just a few simple steps away from turning your mailbox into a ballot box. Here's how. After selecting your candidates, place your marked ballot into the small secrecy envelope and seal it. It's a 2-envelope process, so then you'll place the small secrecy envelope into the larger one. Make sure to seal that one too. Sign and date it, and then it's as simple as dropping it in your mailbox, no postage necessary, or returning it to your county election office. And if you still want to sign up to vote by mail or find out where to drop off your mail-in ballot, visit votespa.com.
I'm not waiting until November 3rd. I'm returning my mail-in ballot the day it comes in the mail.
Or you can return your ballot to your county election office.
I've got my plan. Make your plan to vote today.
Paid for by Power Interfaith.
Recovery starts with a call. Pennsylvania's Substance Use Disorder Hotline is staffed by real people who are trained to help. They're here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll get you or your loved one into treatment regardless of your access to insurance. If you or someone you know is suffering from addiction, call 1-800-662-HELP. Recovery starts with a call.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
What you get for your vote is important. For decades, Democrats like Joe Biden have taken our votes for granted. They have promised us a better future and never delivered. What did our votes for Biden get us? He wrote the 1994 crime bill that put millions of black men in prison for nonviolent crimes and a sluggish economy that left our communities behind. What does a vote for President Trump and his Platinum Plan get you? A contract with Black America that prioritizes black economic empowerment, 3 million new jobs for the black community, 500,000 new black-owned businesses, an increase in access to capital in black communities by almost $500 billion, better and cheaper health care, more education opportunities, and continued historic improvements to our criminal justice system. A vote for Biden gets you the same failed policies we've seen for decades. But with President Trump, the best is yet to come.
I'm Donald Trump, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Donald J. Trump for President Incorporated.
At PICO, we know one thing is certain. Times have changed. From kitchen classrooms to couch conference calls, searching for a new job, or new ways to keep your family connected. These changes have become a part of our reality. That's why our teams are working 24/7 to meet the needs of our communities. So no matter how much things change, you can depend on PECO to be there with the energy and help you need to power through. Learn more at PECO.com.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. Moving right along. I have all this stuff that I want to read to you today. But, you know, these issues that we're talking about are really pivotal in the quality of life for people in and around the city of Philadelphia. And so it is incumbent upon us to really highlight them. Right now we have on the line Mr. Rafael Alvarez Fivo, who is going to talk to us and share his concerns about the Latino community and what they're facing in the upcoming election. Mr. Rafael, are you there?
I'm here.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for doing this. Now, I spoke a little bit about this on The Source on Monday and on Tuesday. And then I ran an entire show about your concerns on Wednesday. And we're back to talking about it again on Thursday. And I wrote an article about it. So this is how important this is to me, because I was stunned by what I had learned on Sunday in a conversation with the Pennsylvania Democrats for Biden campaign. They asked me to join the conversation just to listen in. And the things that I was learning made absolutely no sense to me, because as black and brown people, we're supposed to be on one accord, right? And we're supposed to, if we're going out to do the get out the vote, that brown folks, Latinos, would be a part of that catchment. And so share with the WURD listeners, please, what you're finding and what's happening. Tell them who you are first, and then tell them what's happening.
Well, no, and I do appreciate you bringing a spotlight to this. It's extremely important. Again, my name is Rafael Alvarez Febo. I'm the executive director for the Pennsylvania Commission on LGBTQ Affairs. But prior to that, I spent more than a decade working in electoral politics here in the city of Philadelphia, more specifically in the Latino community. And the issues are systemic, right? I think that it's a community that has many challenges and a very different level of engagement with electoral politics. I think that there's some historic issues here with literacy, with people, even the fact that not too long ago these ballots were printed only in English, right? And most people in this community are their first language is Spanish. So there's been historic challenges for the community here in Philadelphia and obviously across the Commonwealth of PA. But it's extremely important to bring some attention to this.
Yes. So what exactly is happening right now with 19 days, or is it 18 days? I've lost track now. 19 days before the general elections. What's happening in the Latino community?
Well, I think the most important thing for people to understand is that there is a level of engagement. And I always say I use my neighbors who are older individuals as my gauge for how people are feeling. And, my neighbors are very excited to vote. They want to go. They want to have their opinions heard. They think that voting is important. My community is a majority Puerto Rican, and in the Puerto Rican, in Puerto Rico, on the island, we have an 80% voter turnout. So 80% of registered voters turn out, and it's massive. It's actually one of the largest turnout rates in I don't know. I don't want to give a false number, but it's one of the highest turnout rates anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. So when people come here, there's a lot of disconnect from that voting process. But what I'm seeing is people are motivated. They're rightfully upset with what's going on, and they're ready, right? They're voting early. I'm seeing them, come with their voting. I voted stickers. I'm seeing them be really engaged. So I think that, besides what our normal issues are in the community, I think that people are turning out. And I think that that's really good. And, again, everything that Act 77, which was passed by the state legislature, everything that did in order to create the mail-in voting without a need for an excuse, I think that that's really helping people to cast their ballots before Election Day, and people have been taking advantage of that.
Okay. So, all right. So then, all the issues that they discussed, that historically Latinos don't like mail-in ballots, and that they prefer to go vote in person. That was a conversation I had again yesterday, and that they were concerned about voter suppression. Any of this stuff making sense to you?
Oh, absolutely. No, I think the issue with the mail-in ballot, and I mean, I did mine, and, you know, there's a lot of instructions. There's a lot of steps. And if you're English, you're not very proficient in English, you know, it becomes a challenge, right? And I think the other thing is that people really do want their vote to be counted. That is something that's very visceral. When you press that vote button in that machine, you know that your vote is counted right there. It's instantaneous. And I think that people have gotten very accustomed to that feeling, and really trusting that that machine is registering their vote. So I think, yeah, there are many people who are saying, and I was part of one of those folks, right? I was going to go on Election Day. But, you know, there's a contingent of people who want to go on Election Day because they want their vote counted that day. And I think that that's very cultural, you know, and I feel like people like that practice, the people who will vote on a regular basis. So that's valid. That is a valid concern, and that's something that's come up.
I have friends in the African American community too who are saying the same thing, and they're mostly older. They're in their 60s and up, and they say, "Listen, I don't trust this mail-in ballot thing. They could take my mail-in ballots and do all sorts of things with it. I'm going to armor myself up. I'm going to wear a hazmat suit if I have to, but I am going to cast my vote on Election Day." So I hear that a lot from the older group, you know, in the African American community. What's happening with voter suppression? Are you aware of anything like that happening in the Latino community?
Well, I think the main issue is that people are obviously very concerned about Election Day, about the rhetoric coming from, you know, the administration, you know, trying to incite some fear, right? And I think that that's kind of where the suppression is. I think the other aspect with the mail-in ballots is that, again, it's a little bit complicated, right? And if you need help, the city has established, you know, these voter centers, these election centers around the city and neighborhoods. I know in the Latino community, there's Julia de Burgos right on 4th and Lehigh. There's a center there. It's open Monday through Sunday, 11:30 on weekdays, and then I think 9:30 on weekends. So, you know, you can go there. They're not going to be partisan. They're going to help you fill this out. They're going to help you put the envelopes in the right order, and just explain to you the process if you do want to vote early, right? But if you are still, you know, interested in going to the polls on November 3rd, you know, people just need to be ready to have some lines because there's some precautions that need to be taken. But with the voter suppression, I think it's more of an issue of people, the registrations not being up to date, right? You can check your registration at votespa.com to know where your polling location is, right? If your registration is current with your current address. You have till the 19th, which is Monday. You have Monday to register. That is imperative. If you've moved in the last couple months, you know, you want to update your registration because otherwise, when you go to your nearest polling location, that your name is not going to be in the book. And you don't want to, you know, make a plan. Make a plan to vote. Everyone's saying make a plan. It's so important. Go to votespa.com, check where you're registered, and then you should be able to find your polling location pretty soon thereafter. But I think the voter suppression in this community is more about engagement, right? So I think in this community, I mean, I've been working in this neighborhood for 10 years. You know, it's actually one of the most densely populated with the same population communities in the country, right? It's one of the most densely populated Puerto Rican communities in the country. And that's very special about Philadelphia, Philadelphia's eastern north section. But what happens is there's not a continued engagement from the Democratic Party, which leads people to feel like disengaged and feel like they're not, you know, they're not part of the process. So that is a historic thing that has happened. But again, you know, policies, you know, certain policies benefit our community better, and I think that, I can't be partisan, but I think that there's a lot more data to support that Democratic policies help our community much better.
How can we support the people in the Latinos in the brown community? Because every week, and especially in all our shows, Charles Ellison, Solomon Jones, all of us are constantly talking about voter turnout, voter support, all of it. We keep talking about it. And I just realized on Sunday we didn't say much about the Latino community. How can we lock arms and hearts to make sure that our Latino brothers and sisters have the same kind of conversation that we're having in the black communities to make sure we all get out to vote? Because I said this yesterday, in the census 10 years ago, in 2010, we logged in Philadelphia 175,000 Latinos. Those are not numbers to sneeze at. And if every vote counts, how can we lock arms with you to make sure that we're getting you all the same way that we're working with the black community?
Well, I think this is a question that comes up often, and I think it's really important to make sure that, our communities are meant to be allies to each other, right? I think that that's extremely important. I'm a Puerto Rican who believes that Black lives matter, right? We need to own that. We need to own that our struggles are intimately and interconnected in ways that we can't be separate, right? In Philadelphia, if Black and brown people had a coalition, we would be 60% of the population. 60% of Philadelphia is Black and brown, right? But the representation in Philadelphia is quite obviously not, right? 40% of Philadelphia's population is overly represented. And that's not, slighting anyone who may be an ally, who may be great for our communities, but it's a reality around representation. So being allies to each other as Black and brown people is extremely important, right? Printing something in Spanish and English doesn't take away from the African-American community. It brings us into the fold, just like Latinos need to be here for racial justice. Racial justice is all of our fight together. And I think that being allies to each other is the way that we do lock arms, right? And we say, this is our community, these are our neighborhoods, and we're going to vote, and we're going to defend them, and we're going to fight for these, these issues. I mean, this is a huge election. This is, this isn't just about ideologies. This is literally America can go into the grips of fascism. And I know that sounds hyperbolic, but it's really
no,
not.
it doesn't. No, sir, not today. It does not.
But for some people, they would say, "Oh, you're being hyperbolic." And the reality is that I'm a student of history. I love history because I don't like to repeat history. And if you look at how other countries and how they devolved into fascism, this country is there. This country, if there is not a change, we are looking at something that's really disgusting, and the possibilities of it are really, really here, right? So this election is consequential. And then the other thing I would say is us as a country having a common mission and a common vision. And that's something that needs to be articulated by our leadership, but it needs to be informed by our people. And I think that that's how people feel engaged. Because right now, what does it mean to be American, right? Like, how do we move around in the world? Is it about making money and kind of, pushing people to the side and I win and you lose? Or is it about something greater? And I feel like we're having trouble answering that as a society and as Americans. And I think this election is going to determine what those answers are.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. I watched a tweet yesterday, read a tweet yesterday from a friend of mine who was a national figure, and she said, in her tweet, she said, listen, I just had a conversation with a close friend who said she wasn't sure if she was voting Democratic because she was making so much money under this current regime. And she was concerned that the same thing that happened in 2016 would happen here again, right? That people would say, yes, 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 we need to go vote for this one, but go vote for that one. But vote for that one instead. And the elections are going to be incredibly telling that people are voting for their interests versus the interest of what's happening for the majority in this country. And so we're in a frightening time. There is a 10-step process towards being taken over by fascism. And a friend of mine, Mal, who was from South Sudan, read the 10 steps last week. We're in step 7. We're in step 7. Yeah. We are that close, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yep.
So, and I think the other thing is that, when I have many friends who are small business owners, I mean, people who literally built their businesses from nothing, right? Yeah. But there's got to be an understanding, right, with healthcare. My friends who have their own businesses get hurt, heavy prices to insure their families, right? That's a problem. That is a problem that, you don't feel the taxes, right, because you're getting these incentives or whatever, but you're paying crazy premiums for your health coverage, So this is where people need to understand that when we have a society that's integrated in a way that we're working together, we're going to improve healthcare access so that you run your small business, you don't get killed by paying for healthcare because, I mean, it's in the thousands. If you have a family of 5 and you run your own business, it's wild, right? So you're paying thousands of dollars for health insurance, something that you might not use that much, right? So I think that the conversation around taxes is a trope that Republicans use because they say that taxes help Black and brown people and they don't help you. But when we're able to fix a small business owner being able to get health insurance for cheap, and if they got to pay a little bit more in their income taxes, it still balances out for them making more money because they're not paying for something that they're not absolutely using all the time. So I think that, we need to get a little bit better, especially on the left, talking about, like, what does it mean to have a society that works for you, right? Everyone complains about the streets being destroyed, but no one wants to pay taxes. Everyone complains about certain things happening that are rightfully so, right? There's problems and there's inequities in how resources are distributed. But our conversations around taxes as a country, we need to really reframe that because that is the way we can equalize, this democracy that we have.
Yeah. So, listen, our conversation has to end now, but Mr. Rafael Alvarez-Febo, thank you so much. The people on WURD are saying your conversation is absolutely on point, and so it was our pleasure having this conversation with you today. You have a good afternoon, okay?
You do the same. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
I'm getting ready to take a break, but I wanted to say this. Are you paying attention to the folks that are moving into our communities that are getting tax abatements? And tax abatements simply mean you move in, you want to start a business, run something here. For 10 years or a little bit less or sometimes a little bit more, you don't have to pay taxes here. All of that taxation comes down on the people that actually live in the communities. And so the people that are struggling to make ends meet continue to struggle and fall down. And as their things start to fall down, these other folks swoop right in from other places and say, well, you can't afford your rent, you can't afford your property taxes, let me just take it off your hands. And so we start to see the turnover of our communities. When you have large universities that are in here and they're saving $90 million in taxes a year, there has to be some sort of trade-off for the people in the community that they don't just feel like they're being pushed out, right, and being taken advantage of and being usurped and their properties taken from underneath them. So it's something we have to continue to visit, and I will come back to it. And I also have to say one more thing. I am getting ready to do a series on what does it mean to live at the poverty level, not what the government says, but exactly what do you need to live every single year. Because I am of the opinion that if you're making under $30,000 a year, you're living at the level of poverty. And it's unconscionable to me that people seem to think that that is okay to pay folks that for a full-time salary, where after they've graduated from college and have to pay health insurance too. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we will be right back after these messages.
Joe likes to say that character is on the ballot, and it's true. But let's be clear. This election is about building this country back better. And that's exactly what Joe and I will do. Bring back critical supply chains so the future is made in America. Build on the Affordable Care Act And finally, offer caregivers the dignity, the respect, and the pay they deserve. We'll protect a woman's right to make her own decisions about her own body, root out systemic racism in our justice system, and pass a new Voting Rights Act that will ensure every voice is heard and every voice is counted. We have a chance to choose a better future for our country.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
This is Pastor Alan Waller, and I want to remind you of the immortal words of Pastor Leon Sullivan, not burn, baby, burn, but build, baby, build. Since 1968, the Sullivan Progress Plaza has been the place of entrepreneurship in the Black community. We are still building, baby, build. And we want to invite you to come along with us if you seek to invest in our community and make a difference in the new world that we're going to create. For more information, call 215-232-7070. I want to invite you to be a part of the new future of Philadelphia.
The time is now to put an end to the chronic incompetence of Donald Trump and his League of Liars. Donald Trump makes a mockery of the institution of the presidency. He's polarized our country, and his dangerous policies must not continue. Joe Biden has the character, empathy, and experience to lead us through these challenging times. He helped lead the nation out of the 2008 financial crisis into the longest period of economic growth in our history, and he can do it again. As president, he will heal divisions and unite us around the shared values of justice. He'll create opportunities for quality education and good-paying jobs, and he'll build on the Affordable Care Act, not tear it down. While Donald Trump thinks coronavirus and climate change are a hoax, Joe Biden already has a coronavirus recovery plan and a strategy to create more jobs while also tackling the climate crisis. Vote for a president who will stand on the right side of history. Vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Paid for by Black PAC and Priorities USA Action. BlackPAC.com and PrioritiesUSAAction.org, which are responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Everyone's journey to their vote is different, but they all share the same first step. If you want your voice to be heard on Election Day this November 3rd, you must be registered to vote. It's easy, and there are lots of ways to register. You can do it in person, online, or by mail, but you have to do it by October 19th. To learn more about how to register and to make a plan to vote, visit PhiladelphiaVotes.com. However you want to vote, we'll help you find the way.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio.
Streaming live on WURDRadio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. Of course, Mother has her callers, honey, and her diehards that call in every time. Prince, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
So this was this white woman one time. She had a card, gave me that card, and she wrote something on it. So do you remember what that card said?
Say that again. A white woman, what now?
I say bright woman.
Bright.
B-R-I-G-H-T.
Bright woman. A bright woman. Okay. Yes.
I've always been a staunch advocate for education for the many years. I truly believe I am an advocate for living your best life despite odds thrown at your way.
Yeah.
I use my own as an example of living, and it says to motivate and encourage others. Like some years ago when I met you, you had a card that said lawful, truth, and enterprise.
Sir.
And I know you remember that.
As soon as you started to say it, because I remembered writing that, and I continue to live that way, Prince. I pray that when you all listen to me, that you see that I'm continuing to live that.
Right, and it's always good to have a motto or a creed that you carry with you. And I thought that it was disingenuous for so many pastors to get on here and talk about the election and vote and just ignore the 365 lives. You know, if you can man up and get people out of these campaigns, at these voting places, why can't you do it a little earlier and get them out on these corners?
Yes.
Why can't you do it a little earlier? And another thing, when you get these pastors who get paid a paycheck, either by way of temple or by way of some interest group, to start advocating that we should go out and have all these job fairs so you can work extremely hard me the manpower to work over the Christmas holidays for these multi-billion-dollar companies. And you know why I say that? Because let's say I'm an employee at McDonald's, and let's say you have a 24-hour. We're going to serve breakfast 24 hours. You're going to make a couple $1 million. I'm going to produce more breakfast, but yet my pay still stays the same.
Yes. Yes.
And so we're getting dogged out as a people by our own people advocating. The ones who are collecting good paychecks are advocating like they're supporting us, like they're doing us a favor. You know,
hey, Prince, you do not want me to start having some hallelujah moment over here, right? I was just having that conversation today about getting wealthy on the backs of those who are actually doing the work, right? And that it's a conversation we must continue to have, and that we must have a social and moral conscience, right? That when we're stepping up and asking people to do certain things, that we compensate them and treat them as if they bring value to the table. Because what I know for sure is this: for as long as you think you're getting away with it, there's something that you're going to end up paying in the end from all of this, right? There is no action without an equal or greater reaction. And so do we do the right things up front, or do we sit around and be cavalier about people's lives? And, well, if they want, they can always go somewhere else. But, of course, come on now. Come on. You know, it doesn't make sense to me.
And you know what gets me is that after the holiday season, they do not have to retain you. So you would have given them all this energy, all this extra manpower for this small paycheck, only so you could try to take care of your family, only for them to let you go and deem you as holiday help. And so I'm really tired of folks advocate. We should tap out. We should not be. Matter of fact, if the lines are long in Walmart, if the lines are long, if UPS can't deliver all the packages, so what? Until we have an equitable position of ownership in some of these billion-dollar companies, it's just foolish for these council people, state rep people, Congress people to stand there and you taking photo ops. You keep breaking new ground for developers in North Philly to build new entities, and yet we don't have a vested stake in none of this. And I'm going to hang up and listen to you.
And listen, Prince, let me tell you something. Tomorrow I'm having a whole program on Leon H. Sullivan and his Build Brother Build and Build Sister Build program, and how if we would just follow those premises and have leadership that would help us to follow those premises, that less people would be struggling, and we wouldn't have 365 deaths, you know, that are just going unanswered, and missing brown girls. Do you notice there are a bunch of missing black women in this city that nobody's talking about?
Well, guess what? We've had a number of pastors that's come on this show, and we've had some even host this show, and yet it's predicated on what they want the information to be, and not what the information is as it stands. And that's the dilemma that we're suffering with, and that's why we will collectively we can't come together, because they don't speak for me. They don't speak for my guys. They don't speak for the guys who are making the decision to vote or not vote. All they do is articulate what they think it is, and they're getting paid to do it. And so, hold up. How about this? You didn't get to see any of the African-American folks who were in these hospitals for the last 6 months that have passed away. You don't know if they even had their organs.
Yeah, oh, come on. All right, Prince, I'm going to throw you off my line because you're going to make me get all hot and bothered. Goodbye, Prince. I'll talk to you later, sir. Bye. Gary from Southwest.
Hello, Andrea. How are you?
Oh, you don't sound good. What's the matter, my friend?
No. I'm good.
You good? All right. What's up?
I'm listening, and Prince was so on point. Everything he was saying, I was just like, wow. Mm-hmm. He was speaking truth. With this election coming up, Andrea, I've voted in every election since I turned 18 years of age, and I'm 60 plus. Mm-hmm. But with all that voting I've done, and I'm going to say this, I know it's important to vote, and I'm definitely going to vote in this election. Mm-hmm. However, we're not really demanding anything from our politicians. They give us a lot of times they give us a photo op and a couple of nice words. But if you look at this country and look at the extreme poverty, especially us in the black community, and my ancestors built this country and created this wealth for this country, we still get nothing. We got a poor school system, poor health care for our people. That should not be. But yet we have politicians who look like me, and the situation is still the same. I'm tired of putting individuals on a pedestal that don't deserve it. And I'm going to say some of these pastors also. Because you look at it, they make a little, nice piece of change doing what they're doing. Even though they're saying they're, working to save souls and all that kind of thing. But, if you look at the reality and you look at the things that are going on with the city and the crime and the people that are being killed and murdered, like it was just mentioned earlier, that doesn't seem to be a priority. Yeah. At all.
Like I saw a thing on Saturday. One of the politicians is doing a whole men drive by to get men out to vote, and you're absolutely right. Like we're the conversation, and yes, this election is incredibly important. Yes, it is life or death. What are we doing? What are we doing about the violence? What are we doing about the schools? What are we doing about the broken down buildings that are all around us? I drive through Philadelphia. It is a beautiful city, but what I'm looking at are people living in homes, Gary, that they can't afford to upkeep because they're not being paid what they're worth. They're not being paid what they're worth. And so at what point do we, at what point, Gary, do we say, all right, we've got to do and be better about all of this, right? And, I have to tell you this, quite frankly, I've heard this. You can't say that because you might offend. Well, then what are we doing this for? This is not a dress rehearsal. We have one life.
Right. And what you're saying now, like people, my colleagues, some of my friends, they said, well, Dad, Gary, you're being abrasive. I said, no, I'm not being abrasive. I'm being honest. I'm tired of this. It's just by the grace of God, Andrea, that my wife and I were able to make a living and take care of my sons. And I feel blessed to be able to have done that. However, there are other people that have no means or resources to do even what we did. And I think we deserve more. My sons, Andrea, when they were growing up, and I'm not bragging or anything, we bit the bullet. And we sacrificed. We sent them to private school. They both went to Masterman, Juilliard Masterman. Our other son went to Kappa and all that. They had a good education and everything. When their friends would come over and they had sleepovers, and some of their friends, they came from single-family homes, and you know what they would say? They would say, hey, hello, Mr. Bryant. They would say to my sons, you have your mom and your dad. They were amazed about that. I was like, something hit me, man. I'm like, wow. So when they would come over, they'd get their grades. They would show me their report cards, and I would ask them how they were doing in school. And that's what they need. They need encouragement. That's what they need. They need encouragement. But more so than that, we need the people that we elect to office to really work for us. Yes, they represent everybody. However, me as a black man, and I see what we've been through and still going through, they still owe us so much, and it's not happening. And we have to stop putting people on a pedestal, whether they be ministers, politicians, and if you look at the tax laws, everything, those tax laws that are created, they benefit the extremely wealthy. We're getting peanuts. Our communities are being gentrified. Up in Mansfield, as I said, right there, Drexel University, University of Penn, 38th and Aspen. And I go to the community meetings sometimes down there, and I tell them, don't sell your property. Y'all need to go to these meetings, too, and see what's going on. Yes. If you go to you Google Philly 2035, that's the Philadelphia Planning Commission, okay? All you got to do is go there and look at those plans up to 2035, and you read them. They don't include us, Andrea.
Yes, I know, Gary. I know. I'm literally trying to figure out how we can make a difference. I got to take a break, but continue to listen and continue to hold me personally accountable as I am trying to hold everybody around me personally accountable, whether they like it or not, because I'm not here to be cute and as a dress rehearsal. We're talking about the lives of people here, and we have to be responsible with that. So thank you, my brother. Hang on in there, okay? All right, bye-bye. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. And follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we will be right back after these messages.
Keystone First VIP Choice HMO SNP Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan has a 4 out of 5 star rating and is one of the highest rated Medicare plans in the region. Keystone First VIP Choice and you are better together. If you live in Philadelphia, Bucks, Chester, Montgomery, or Delaware County, and you have both Medicare and Medicaid, choose the Medicare plan that is working to help you get better care. Enjoy extra benefits at no cost to you with Keystone First VIP Choice. You get benefits like dental, vision, and transportation to and from your medical appointments. They also cover a fitness membership to a gym of your choice. $150 toward over-the-counter pharmacy items. There's no copay for doctor's visits. They offer a large provider network, a great prescription plan, dental coverage, and even eyeglasses. Plus, you don't have to wait for open enrollment. You can change your coverage every quarter. Keystone First VIP Choice. The name you trust, the service you deserve. Call Keystone First VIP Choice today at 1-877-686-1760 or visit KeystoneFirstVIPChoice.com.
Reverend Tyler, with November 3rd around the corner, do you know how you'll be voting this year?
Dr. Callahan, I requested my mail-in ballot, and I'm returning it the day it comes in the mail.
That's perfect, because we can't leave anything to chance this year.
Already received your mail-in ballot? You're just a few simple steps away from turning your mailbox into a ballot box. Here's how. After selecting your candidates, place your marked ballot into the small secrecy envelope and seal it. It's a two-envelope process, so then you'll place the small secrecy envelope into the larger one. Make sure to seal that one too. Sign and date it, and then it's as simple as dropping it in your mailbox, no postage necessary, or returning it to your county election office. And if you still want to sign up to vote by mail or find out where to drop off your mail-in ballot, visit votespa.com.
I'm not waiting until November 3rd. I'm returning my mail-in ballot the day it comes in the mail.
Or you can return your ballot to your county election office.
I've got my plan. Make your plan to vote today.
Paid for by Power Interfaith.
Seniors, does your doctor regularly reach out to check on you? Can you walk into your doctor's office and see them if you need to? Do you have your doctor's cell phone number and can you call them anytime, day or night? At Dedicated Senior Medical Center, their only specialty is caring for seniors. Dedicated makes it easy to get the primary care you deserve. Doctors spend more time with patients than the doctors you may be used to. They offer telehealth visits, help you get your medications, and even make sure you get to your appointments. If your doctor isn't treating you like family, it's time to say yes to Dedicated Senior Medical Center. Call Dedicated Senior Medical Center today to schedule a visit and find out what you're missing. Call 267-443-1900. That's 267-443-1900. Appointments are available now.
This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Independent Black Media.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. Before we get into a conversation that means everything to me, let me take Maurice from Southwest quickly. Maurice, are you there?
Polls.
Maurice.
Yes.
All right, now.
Got extra 1,000 people coming, so my plan is working. But look, let me get to the facts here. I can hear the pain. I consider Gary my URD brother.
Yes.
And me and him been talking the same thing for a couple years about these politicians. But we got certain false prophets that be on this show, be on this station, that we don't even call anymore, but we respect what he's doing, but we don't call because we don't get any answers because they have all the politicians on their show and don't ask them a thing. Don't ask them a thing about what's going on in Philly. But the real problem is it's not the politicians. It's not the white people. What is our plan as black people? That is the problem. We just let them lead us like sheep. And we don't say anything. Right now, I would say don't even send your kids to these public schools until they make a change. They have millions of dollars that they waste, and I mean waste. I'll just take one example, 46th and Market, where we spent $42 million to get that place ready for a police station. And then when we get a new mayor, he decides, I don't want to use that. And then he spends $250 million on the Inquiry building and then sells that $42 million property that he spent all that money on and sells it for $10 million. And we act like nothing ever happened. Our politicians act like they don't know what's happening and they're just going along for the ride. It's our problem. We need to pick our mayor now, put our money together, and elect somebody that we want. For once, let's take responsibility as black people and stop being led around by these politicians and these white people on telling us how to do. Second, we'll close with this. The crime. That's our problem. problem because nobody white is being killed. That's why nothing is being done. If we start supervising our own neighborhood, we know who the killers are. We know who the boys on the corner. I'm sorry, but I'm not a snitch. I'm a witness. I've testified.
There you go, Gary. There you go, Maurice.
I testified on many people in court.
That's what I'm talking about.
Because you know why? Because I know about business. You can't do what you're doing if the businesses are shut down.
Yeah.
The reason these young boys are crazy because we think they're supposed to put down the guns. If they don't have a job or nothing to do, no training, what do you expect them to do? It's only 2.5% of all the business here in Philadelphia are black-owned. Now, with COVID, that's before COVID. So now you know it's under 1% now. So stop telling these boys, you don't need to be out there and go get a job. There are no jobs, okay? There are no construction jobs because the unions have them locked down. There's no jobs for black people. So it's up to us to start opening businesses, start vending, things we can do on our own. I can't even, I'm out here in Southwest, I can't even find a black person to make me a cheese steak actually own the store, a cheese steak or get some fried chicken from. And that's a crime. So people, stop looking at somebody else. We are the problem, and I'll leave it at that.
All right. Thank you so much. Listen tomorrow from 12 to 2, and you'll hear a great program on Leon H. Sullivan. It's awesome stuff. All right. I have to transition because this next guest is like manna to my soul. Neil Carlin, are you there? Neil?
So inflated. My ego. I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're a little low. How are you?
I'm good. Thank that. That was my ego has gotten so big hearing your intro of me. Thank you for having me on.
So Neil, let me just say this. You wrote this biography called This Thing Called Life, Prince's Odyssey on and off the record. Let me tell you why my specifically talking to you is so important. I grew up on the island of Jamaica, and I was a young teenager when I first heard Prince, when I first saw him, and he got on the stage, and I was like, is it a guy? Is it a girl? But he was so authentically in his own skin. I absolutely fell in love with him. My mother thought he was a devil, Neil. I come to America to live and been following Prince ever since. I have all of his albums, and I mean all of them. If there was something to be downloaded, I got it, right, Neil? And then I got divorced, and my first husband took the Prince collection. I don't think I've forgotten or forgiven him for that. So I had to start all over again. Right?
Ouch,
and
that
then,
hurts. Yeah.
Listen, it hurt, right? And so when the musicology tour came to Philadelphia, I was there. First one in line was up under the Jumbotron. They could see me and Prince dancing and having a good old time. When Prince died, my husband put me on a plane and sent me to his estate, and I spent 4 days in Minneapolis. I went to the Electric Fetus. I went to the places where all his films were done, learned where he went to school, went and visited his childhood home. I did everything Prince on my own. Even visited
You didn't call me. I was here.
I didn't call you, Neil. And I mean, I felt like it was like some sort of like a mecca for me, right? And then when they reopened Paisley Park, so we could go in and visit, I went with one of my great friends, and we saw where his urn was and the doves and all of that, right? And he had all this music in a safe that still hasn't even been released yet. So when I heard about the fact that you wrote this and that you were someone who, you knew him. You were the only reporter who made Prince sound like what he really sounded like, that you're the only journalist Prince granted in-depth press interviews for over a dozen years, from before Purple Rain to when the artist changed his name to an unpronounceable glyph. I remember that. You interviewed him for 3 Rolling Stone cover stories and wrote 3 Chains of Gold, Prince's rock video opera, as well as his last testament, which was maybe buried with him, with his will underneath his vast and private compound, Paisley Park. Welcome to The Source, sir.
Hey, thank you for having me on. It means a lot, and I really appreciate it.
I am so excited, so excited. Talk to us about this book. How did it come about?
Well, you have to go. I first met. I'm from Minneapolis, and I'm in Minneapolis right now. I live here. I was working for Rolling Stone when I did my first interview with him, and he didn't know I was from Minneapolis. And not only that, we had met when we were 12. My grandparents lived 2 blocks away from where he lived when I was 12, and I used to stay there every weekend. And he remembered me the first time we met. He didn't know I was from Minneapolis till he was going. We were driving through his old neighborhood, and he was pointing out where his mother and father lived, and he said, now, the difference between North Minneapolis and the difference between South Minneapolis, I said, oh, I know, that's where my grandparents live right there. And that hill's where we go tobogganing. And he'd say, me too. It's like, it was this just revelation. But the reason we sort of got along, I never said I was his best friend, because he would sometimes, you know, if he said you were his best friend Tuesday, he would never speak. He might not be speaking to you ever again on Thursday. But I kept my distance, and I wrote 3 articles, and then I quit writing about him because that became my identity. Oh, you're the Prince guy. You're the Prince guy. And I collaborated with him on a couple things, but we always stayed in touch. And now that I was living in Minneapolis again, I moved from New York, where I'd lived for 10 years, working for Newsweek and Rolling Stone. We just kept in touch. Sometimes, you know, I hear from him. He'd call in the middle of the night, once a week for 3 months, and sometimes I wouldn't hear from him for a year, but we always just sort of stay in touch. So he died, and since then, there have been a million books that have come out, and people said,
yes.
Why another book? And I've been working on this for 4 years, but there have been great books and not so great books and terrible books written about him. But the one thing that was missing in every book, or that hadn't been covered, not missing, was him, the guy, the human being. And he was a human being. And I think the fact that he was looked upon, as this guy by so many people, I really believe he was a genius, and I don't throw that word loosely around, But I think he will be remembered in 50 years. There'll be people still dancing to him, and there'll still be books written about him. I don't know about, no one knows Bing Crosby anymore or Jack Benny, but we will remember Prince. And I wanted people to remember he is a human being, and I had everything taped and everything, and it was verifiable, and so much stuff out there is just wrong. And he muddied the record himself. He kind of wanted to be like Robert Johnson, the great Delta blues man who met where he just spoke through his music. And I asked him the first time, why did you, make up these stories? Like, he tells wild stories about his mother to reporters early in his career when he had to give interviews. And, she's a wild woman. She was this, that. She told me, and in fact, she was this very dignified lady who was close confidant, who was a school social worker specializing in drug addiction problems. She's a wonderful woman. And he just made up stuff. And he said, I wanted to tease journalists because I wanted them to focus on my music and not that I came from a broken home. And he didn't, half the people in the world, my mother grew up in that neighborhood. Both my parents grew up in the north side of Minneapolis. They came from broken homes. But he literally meant a broken home. His father kind of broke him as a person, and he had the genius to overcome that. I remember him showing me the telephone booth on the north side when they still had telephone booths. This is how old I am. Yeah, and he said, my father kicked me out when I was 14, and that's the phone booth where I sat and begged him to come home, and he said no. And I sat down and cried for 2 hours, and that's the last time I cried. And in fact, that's when he got up and he went and lived with Andre Simone, the great musician, and his family, Bernadette Anderson, his mother, for 4 years. And that's when he sort of became Prince, when he stood up out of that telephone booth. And he always hated the name Prince. It was his father's stage name. His father, John Nelson, didn't name him John Nelson.
Wait a minute. He hated the name Prince?
At the beginning, because him and his father had a very tough, his father really was tough. And this was at the beginning of growing up. He didn't like the name Prince because that was his father's stage name. His father was a jazz guy. And Prince had the career his father never had. And it's kind of, it breaks your heart when you see a parent jealous of their child, and he got up, and forever after that, he loved the name Prince until he changed it, when his father kicked him out. And he paid a price for being a genius. It separates you from people, when you have that talent. And I don't say this judgmentally. It's just, I'm so glad I'm not a genius. And unfortunately, he had to live with that. His head was going every second. That's why he was so productive. But he talked about he wished he didn't have to sleep. He wished he didn't have to eat. He had so many ideas ping-ponging around in his head every second. And that's why he he hurt his. I mean, I think what he really died of was he couldn't dance anymore because his hips hurt so much, and his arms hurt so much from playing the. They estimate he played the guitar more than anybody in recorded history. He played for 18 hours. He barely slept, and I wanted to show the price he paid as a human being. And so it's not like a puff piece. Oh, and it's not a tell-all scandalous thing, but it's just he had 15 different parts of him, and he was kind of so hurt as a human being that no one knew more than 15%, including me. If anyone says, "Oh, I know Prince," I knew. They're lying, and there are a lot of people out there. I used to say, I'm so glad Prince can't come back because he'd die again if he saw what was being done in his name. People. But after George Floyd, which then Minneapolis, no one's ever going to recover from that. But I wished he was back to provide the soundtrack to that. I don't mean like the #1 hit album about but just. I know he'd have so much to contribute and say. He was, Baltimore, 2015. He just had so much. He was so politically aware, and I just know he could have helped this town and this country get through. I mean, he wasn't this guy. He was a human being, but I would have broken it. That might have killed him, actually.
It says you have here in the book. It says, alive, Prince had become ever more politicized with the years. Near his end in 2015, he released the song "Baltimore," centered on Freddie Gray, 25 and black, who was less than a month before. Who was less than a month before he had died while in custody of Charm City police, sparking more than a week of protest and rioting. Nobody's got in nobody's way, so I guess you could say it was a good day, at least a little. Prince sang, it was better than a day in Baltimore. I mean, he was so prolific, and I think, as you're talking about it, he spoke to me, a young girl growing up on an island that was told I should be seen and not heard, and I wanted to be everything. Because of Prince, I design all my own clothes. Because of Prince, I speak completely. Oh, I do. I speak what is on my mind. I don't, this is not a popularity contest. I learned from Prince to, do things for people that people may never know until I die, right? But I talked to one of his, I talked to one of his neighbors that lived near him that said he would just show up and play basketball with them and then sit down and do homework with their children. He never wanted anyone to talk about those things, right? He was just
he gave
Prince.
Millions to charity, and he wanted that less known than himself. No one knows about that. He gave $1 million a year to the Minneapolis Urban League, and to Marvel, millions and millions, and he wouldn't hand out press releases about it. He'd make sure no one spoke about it,
Yep. And I learned so much from him. He was such a quiet, humble human being. But I also learned that he would make pancakes, right, for folks just randomly at 2 o'clock in the
concerts at 2 in the morning at Paisley Park, and then he'd make pancakes for everybody. And people kept saying, "Oh, he's at various parts of his career, oh, he's fooling around, he's being silly." And then it turns out, no, he wasn't. He was fighting for artists' rights. He was fighting with the record companies so other artists could own their material. At the time, it just looked like silliness to a lot of people, and it wasn't. We have to catch up to him, he was ahead of his time. But Jay Leno would call him the artist who formerly sold albums. And it's true, but he didn't want to sell 15 million records again like he did Purple Rain. He said the smartest thing he ever did was recording Around the World in a Day right after Purple Rain, before it hit. So, and he said, because everyone wanted him to do another Purple Rain, and he said, the record company is fans, and he said, you know how easy it would be for me to rewrite Let's Go Crazy just by changing one chord, and it would be another hit song. I said, no, show me. And it was, it's interesting to see a real genius, catch them in the act of being a genius. And he changed one chord, and it was a totally different song, and it was great. I mean, he could have done that forever, but he didn't want to. He wanted to change and grow as an artist, and the record company didn't want him to change. His fans didn't want him to change. And it's hard enough to make it and give the people what they want, but he gave the people what they didn't want at the time.
Right.
And we had to catch up. And it's so interesting to hear you from Jamaica, because he was like a hometown guy, so I just keep thinking, Minneapolis. I mean, when he died, there was such mourning here, and it shocked people here sort of to see, oh, my God, he really was. The world was moved. You couldn't see a magazine rack,
Yes.
But I'm interested in hearing you, not me, Babylon, because just hearing about your experience is so fascinating to me, because to me he's still a Minneapolis.
Yeah, and when I got to Minneapolis, people so revered him that they did not make up, like, they didn't want to sell Prince stuff. Like, I had to hunt to find, you know. I even went to Lake Minnetonka. I had to go to Lake Minnetonka. I went everywhere for 4 days straight, right? And I went to the Arboretum where he hung out. I didn't know he loved flowers, and that orange was really one of his favorite colors, and not purple. And my business logo, my business colors are orange and purple. I mean, I am so entrenched, because he was a genius that no one fully understood, and he's still way above his time, and he's gone. I've never seen anything like it in my life. So while everybody was running around Michael Jackson, whatever, Prince spoke to me and reminded me that I had to always walk in my truth, even if it was an unpopular truth for those around me, because nothing beats being authentic. Yep.
He had that courage to truly be himself. I mean, and I wrote up this thing for him. It was the only time I did anything, work for him. It was this one project when he was. I believe there is a will, and I'm not just making this up to be a Star Trek guy, because I wrote the document along with it it was 1993, and he was going to bury it in a time capsule, he called it, on the grounds of Paisley Park, which is hundreds of acres, and they've been selling it off, and I think in 50 years...
Wait a minute, they're selling it off?
Well, I mean, little parcels of the land, not Paisley Park itself, but it's hundreds of acres, and I think in 50 years, I'm not making this up, it sounds like silliness, but I think it was his last practical joke, and he did it a little too well. He buried it a little too well, and they'll be digging up ground for Paisley Park condos or something, and they'll come upon it. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of acres. They're not selling Paisley Park itself, but there's all this land, and and he just talked about, he was really he cared about his legacy. He always preserved everything, and he thought about the future. So I think he left a will. But one thing you said about purple and orange, it's one thing in the book that I just love. I mean, it's not like, oh, here's what I love about me. It's why things were. The reason he loved purple so much was, I don't know if you know the children's book Purple and Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Yes.
It was, the kid who had the little crayon, he could draw his new reality. And that was based on his childhood. I mean, the book wasn't, but growing up, that was his favorite book, because he wanted to draw himself out of his surroundings, his house. He was such a gift, and I'm just so sorry. And I hadn't written about him for 25 years. We stayed in touch, but I wanted to write about other things, and I think he appreciated that I wasn't trying to make money off him. And that's, he said in his Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction speech, everyone should have a mentor and a friend who isn't on his payroll. And I'm not saying he was talking about me at all, but it helped that he used to say, I can make anybody famous for 15 minutes, but I can't make them famous forever, and they never forgive me. And I thought that was so interesting, because there's so many haters out there, too, I mean...
they come with the territory.
Or when he was alive, there was. Now everyone loves him.
So
we hadn't
Neil...
talked to in 40 years.
Yeah, we have a minute left.
Sorry, I got so excited hearing how
I know, but you know what? I am going to connect with you after this show, because I'm coming back to Minneapolis. That's how much I love Prince. So you and I will talk. I'll connect with you in person. How can people find this book, sir?
It's on Amazon. It should be in better and worse bookstores everywhere. It's called. That's good. I just forgot to know. It's this thing called Life.
Yes, this thing called Life.
And I'm Neil, and it should be on Amazon. I mean, it is on Amazon. It is in every book. It just came out last week from.
October 6th. I have a copy of the book in. So was it for me too. I have a copy of the book in my hands. I cannot wait to read it. I'm going to stay in touch with you. I will reach out to you shortly. But thank you so much for giving us everything about Prince in a book called This Thing Called Life, written by Neil Carlin. It can be found in any Amazon and any bookstore where you look for it anywhere. Thank you so much, Neil Carlin. Have a good one, okay?
Thank you. You have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Ooh, that made my, you all just don't even know how much Mother loved her some Prince, honey. Even when my mother was like, no, you can't do it. I'm like, no. You cannot take Prince away from me. All right. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we will be right back after these messages.
The time is now to put an end to the chronic incompetence of Donald Trump and his League of Liars. Donald Trump makes a mockery of the institution of the presidency. He's polarized our country, and his dangerous policies must not continue. Joe Biden has the character, empathy, and experience to lead us through these challenging times. He helped lead the nation out of the 2008 financial crisis into the longest period of economic growth in our history, and he can do it again. As president, he will heal divisions and unite us around the shared values of justice. He'll create opportunities for quality education and good-paying jobs, and he'll build on the Affordable Care Act, not tear it down. While Donald Trump thinks coronavirus and climate change are a hoax, Joe Biden already has a coronavirus recovery plan and a strategy to create more jobs while also tackling the climate crisis. Vote for a president who will stand on the right side of history. Vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Paid for by Black PAC and Priorities USA Action. BlackPAC.com and PrioritiesUSAAction.org, which are responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Joe likes to say that character is on the ballot, and it's true. But let's be clear. This election is about building this country back better. And that's exactly what Joe and I will do. Bring back critical supply chains so the future is made in America. Build on the Affordable Care Act. And finally, offer caregivers the dignity, the respect, and the pay they deserve. We'll protect a woman's right to make her own decisions about her own body. Root out systemic racism in our justice system, and pass a new Voting Rights Act that will ensure every voice is heard and every voice is counted. We have a chance to choose a better future for our country.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
What's up, everyone? I know you know the word, no, not the station, but this word, J-O-B that is, and our friends at Amoroso's Baking Company are hiring right now. Amoroso's has been baking the delicious bread in our community for over 100 years, and they want you to join their team today. The old and the young love Amoroso's, and they are hiring right now. Check it out. They offer fair pay and provide health, dental, and prescription plans after 90 days employment. Call 856-754-0355 or visit amorososbaking.com for details.
Everyone has a different journey to their vote, but we all take the same steps. If you want to vote, register by October 19th. If you want to vote by mail, apply now and mail your ballot back as early as possible, before November 3rd. Or bring it to a satellite election office. If you want to vote in person, go to your polling location on November 3rd. However you want to vote, we'll help you find the way. Visit PhiladelphiaVotes.com.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDRadio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. Before we get our next guest on, I want to remind you all that the President of these United States petitioned the Supreme Court, who agreed with him, and they changed the census deadline from October 31st to midnight tonight. So if you have anyone that is in your family that has not yet filled out the census, remember, we stand to lose billions of dollars in goods and services here in terms of our schools, our streets, all of that, if we do not fill out the census. And tonight at midnight, he used the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court agreed with him. This is why our elections matter, people. So at 11:59 tonight is the last time you can have an opportunity to fill out the census. Please go ahead and get it done. I have guests on, but let me just take these two quick phone calls, and I can go with the guests without having an issue. Reverend Joe, line 1, are you there, sir?
Good afternoon, Miss Andrea. No problem, man. No problem.
Hey, how you doing, sir? How can I help you?
Listen, did you know Kamala Harris' father was from Jamaica?
Yes, sir. Well aware. And Colin Powell's parents are from Jamaica. Watch the movers and shakers, man. Their parents either come from the islands or they're from the islands themselves. We are the parents of Jamaican parents. I can't speak for any other island because Jamaica is what I know and what I'm steeped in. The expectation of our children to thrive and do well, despite what is thrown our way, is something unbelievable. So yes, I did know that her father's a professor too, very smart man. All right. Are you there, Reverend Joe? Reverend Joe. Reverend Joe's gone. All right. Let me get. I think you better call Tyrone. Hey, Tyrone.
Call him.
So listen, Tyrone, I have guests on, so I just want to give you a couple seconds before I get to my guests. How are you, sir?
Very quickly, you know, when you were talking about him on, I believe it was his birthday, and that night they had the, was it Sheila J, Ela J, or
Sheila E. Yes, Sheila E.
Sheila E. Had that program. That was the best musical program that I have ever witnessed. And one of the things that I loved about it, that everybody that performed, they performed like Prince was in them. It was such a phenomenal show. I don't know if you've seen it, but it was the same day that
Come on, Tyrone. Come on, Tyrone. If it says Prince, I'm in it.
Well, look, I just wanted to share that because that was phenomenal that you was talking about him that day. That show came on that night, and you can tell what you were saying, how true it was, because everybody that performed, like I said, they performed like Prince was in them. So,
I'm telling you, and he had really high standards for his artists. He was a perfectionist, right? And on any given day, if I'm playing certain Prince music, you want to get away from me. If I'm playing other Prince music, then you know I'm happy. And if I'm playing, like I have like these different Prince cachets that I play, right? Depending on the mood that I am in. Prince is the thing for me. I'm telling you. I was so excited to do that interview. All right, my brother.
Well, I'm glad you lifted me up, and I'm glad that he lifted you up. So God bless.
And continues to lift me up. Bye, Tyrone. Good talking to you, man. All right, bye-bye. All right, now, so let's see. We now have Dr. Doreen Laurie. Doc, are you there?
Of course I
am. and Janine. Janine, are you there?
I am here.
Hi, Janine, darling. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you.
Oh, listen, anything that Dr. Laurie told you about me is a lie.
I didn't believe it. Yes, he did. I got to speak for myself.
Listen, I'm telling you, I'm sweet as pie. All right, so you both are on to talk about artists and poets speak to race, racism, and anti-racism, a reading and panel discussion that is happening tomorrow from 7 to 9 p.m. Where is it happening?
Now, you know me. I'm always going to make sure Arcadia does the right thing.
Yes, ma'am.
So, my wonderful friend, you bet, you probably can't remember, Linda Peasy.
All right, I'm hearing a lot of noise in the background. Is it you, Doc, or Janine?
How about now?
Okay, that's much better. Yes.
Okay, I had it on speaker.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure I'm not speaking so loud because I have the voice, as you can hear.
Yes.
You know, but Linda Peasy, who's one of the employees that I love at Arcadia, one of my colleagues, she came to me and said, I really want to do this because she had just seen something like it that had been on Facebook with all these wonderful poets and artists. And as anyone will tell you, right now, they're suffering because they can't do gigs.
Right.
So one of the things that we said we were going to do, since we're all in this new world, of anti-racism and anti-black racism in particular, that we decided that we would call some of these wonderful artists that she had connected to and that I know, and we would do a phenomenal forum, you know, for students, the campus, and the public, called, in fact, Artists and Poets Speak to Race, Racism, and Anti-Racism. And that's what we're going to do. It's Friday. And we have people, and Janine will talk as well, but we have Janine coming. We have the visual artist, Theodore A. Harris. Andrea, you and I both got to go see him because I'm looking at his work, and it's phenomenal, okay?
Really?
We have Inzadi Keita, Pat McLean-Smith, Deborah Powell Wright, my good friend Quincy Scott Jones, my other lovely man who I love, Lamont Steptoe, and You know that piece you love in my bathroom, Andrea, called "And Now I'm a Bitch"?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't say that word.
Lord, I can't with you.
Well,
And this is Tamika?
I am telling you, Miss Kamika's poem, I think I've got this in the 70s, and that's why I had it printed, and that's in my bathroom. So that's what we're going to do. It's free.
It's free?
Doing between 7 and 9 on Friday these days.
Is it free, Doc?
Come on to Zoom. It's a webinar. It's actually a webinar. And join us. Everything is on Facebook. The link to register is on Facebook. So just come and join us and have a great day. And Janine will tell you a little bit about how she's going to be there helping us, really talking about, right, in this racist moment that we're in, and I call it racist, not racist, in this racist moment that we're now in, they're going to discuss with us the whole journey that explores race, racism, and anti-racism. So it's going to be a great evening.
Yes. So, Doc, is the link on Arcadia's Facebook page?
It's on Arcadia. I have posted it on Facebook, which I will do again today.
Uh-huh.
And if people, I'm trying to figure out what other, I don't do Instagram yet, so I'll send it to you and you put it on Instagram.
Okay, yeah, please send it to me, text it to me, and I will put it in the WURD page, and I'll put it on my page. Okay?
Great.
Is there a cost for is there a cost for this program?
No, there's no cost. No.
There's no cost. Okay. All right, Janine, talk to Mother. Where do you fit into this spectrum right here?
So everyone knows me for Harriet's Bookshop, and I appreciate all of the
yes, I did talk to you.
Yes, so you know me a little bit,
Yes.
and so that's the way that most people know me. But I am also a writer, and so I'm excited to support Dr. Lori in bringing this vision to life. I am aware that lots of writers, especially new writers, are struggling right now with how to get out to audience, and so it's very important that we support our writers. They, like Toni Morrison said, they are the constructors of meaning, and so we need to find ways to make sure that those folks are supported and protected.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so how are you contributing to this tomorrow?
I'll actually be sharing some of my poetry, which I've never done before, publicly, so this is going to be exciting for me as well.
Let me ask you this. We're talking about race, racism, and anti-racism. What has your experience been as a book owner and a citizen of Philadelphia?
I've had a range of experiences. I've seen some of the worst of what humanity has had to offer. Folks have sent me terrible emails. They threatened to call the police on me. I've actually been assaulted by the police in Philly. At the same time, I've also had some of the best experiences where people have come to my rescue. People have stood outside of our bookstore and said that they were going to protect us at all costs. I don't know if you saw the other day, we held a sisterhood sit-in here in Fishtown, and we had hundreds of people who decided to participate in that alongside us. And so, the worst of humanity and the best of humanity, I've seen it here in Philly.
Wow. Dr. Lori, when you hear Janine talk about this kind of stuff, I mean, you and I, when I am at my lowest, we live around the corner from each other. So when I am at a place where I'm like, all right, I can't take enough, I'll send you a text or I'll call you, and you'll come scoop me up, and you'll envelop me in the history and the warmth of it. Not everybody has that, right? What do you say to folks who are just tired of everything that's happening around them, and the fact that we're just kind of moving along? It feels like we're sludging through molasses, just kind of dealing with each day, but not really dealing with the day. Does that make sense?
Oh, definitely. In fact, you and I just talked the other day because I think you saw my post where I was saying that I've asked God, I said, you've got me covered in this heaviness. How do I get out of this heaviness? I got to take these coats off and these layers off. And I think because, A, we're sequestered in our homes or in our communities, we don't have the outlets that we're accustomed to. So the heaviness of racism is even more haunting and encumbersome for us.
Yes.
And what I'm saying to people over and over, you must first, and it sounds funny, free Okay. You've got to breathe. You've got to get out of your house if you can. If you do nothing but walk 1 block, look around, and come back home. You must also take the time right now to do some self-reflection. Because we have to start thinking, if we are so unhappy with what's going on in the world, and let's be real, it has been going on forever.
Yes.
So now that it's in our faces, what are we going to do? And that's what the part of the self-reflection. I just got off with my students for my racism class. I could not get them off the damn Zoom. And it was so wonderful because they were saying, okay, what do we need to do? What do I need to do? So we really need to talk to one another, to ask each other, what is it that you can do in this work? And it may not be what everybody can do, but you want to be able to contribute something. So let's help each other figure that out.
Yes, agreed. Absolutely agreed. Tell everybody again about this thing. Friday, October 16, 2020, from 7 to 9 p.m. It's called Artists and Poets Speak to Race, Racism, and Anti-Racism. It's readings and a panel discussion that's happening at Arcadia University via Zoom. Tell them how they can find the link to register, please.
Well, we're going to put it up again and on my Facebook and yours, but I just got a thing from Arcadia. They have put it out to the world. So it's also, it's on Arcadia's site. So if you go to arcadia.edu or myarcadia.edu, you will see the site that will actually say media information. And it's there. It's actually there. Again, it'll be on my Facebook. It'll be on your Facebook. I know Harriet's going to put it up. I called her Harriet. Janine,
I know. Janine Cook. I know.
Everybody calls you Harriet. It's okay. It's a great name to have.
Yes.
She was featured on national news this week twice.
Really? Go ahead, Janine. Yes, Janine.
She was featured twice, talking about being a small business person and how COVID has impacted her, and she also showed the Sister Circle. So this young woman has so much to offer to Philadelphia and her bookstore. I really want people to come and see what I did not know was her debut, of reading her wonderful work. We're going to have a great time tomorrow. We may not get off at 9 o'clock. We'll get off when we feel like it.
Yeah, I will. I'll register to be on it. Janine, I came to your opening. I was so happy to see so many people there, and I did talk to you. I connected with you immediately. I didn't get to meet you at the opening because you were so busy. I mean, I caught a glimpse of you that day. But here's what I want to leave you with, my
sister. That just goes to show you how much support we've been given. Like, sisterhood is powerful, you know?
Yes, it is. But I want to share this with you. There is something indelible about your spirit that I heard while I was talking to you on the air. And to hear you talk about the sisterhood sit-in where hundreds of people showed up, you are walking in Harriet's shadow and in her likeness, whether you want to or not. So when they call you Harriet, my sister, just consider it a compliment because there's something very special about you. And I sensed it, and we're going to keep talking about this because what you will find is because of who you are and how you stand firmly in your truth, that it won't always feel wonderful, right? So wrap yourself around people who, and it may only be 2 or 3 people, that you can pick up the phone and call at any hour of the day or night that can send you something, a breakfast at your door or a glass of something that'll remind you why you're here on this earth and that it is not in vain. Do you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
I thought I was coming to speak on the radio, but I was really coming to get a word, and I appreciate that. I do.
Yeah.
I accept it wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and I've been meaning to say that to you from the first time.
Andrea, we're always about making sure we put young people and young women especially in our circle. And again, I met you too, Janine, again, on that first one when you opened. Again, the only thing that stopped us is COVID. But I think COVID, I'm getting tired. I'm getting ready to go back out for a while.
You just go ahead and mask yourself up because I don't want to have to come pick you up from somewhere, so please. Janine Cook and Dr. Doreen Laurie, thank you both so much for being on the air with me today. I will be sure to register and I will share it on my pages, okay?
All right. Thanks again, as always, Andrea.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Peace.
You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we will be right back after these messages.
Over 200,000 dead.
They are dying. That's true. It is what it is.
Millions unemployed.
It is what it is.
It doesn't have to be. Joe Biden has a plan to get us out of Trump's mess. Good-paying jobs, investing in black communities, and strengthening our health care. Trump might not care, but Joe Biden does. Make a plan to vote. Our lives depend on it.
Paid for by AFSCME People, which is responsible for the content of this ad. AFSCMEPeople.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Dietz & Watson has been making premium meats and artisan cheeses for over 80 years. And when it comes to stacking sandwiches and party platters, they've got something for everyone in the family, like maple honey turkey breast, American cheese, buffalo chicken, and more. So get to your local deli and taste 4 generations of family recipes. With Dietz & Watson on the table, you'll have everyone coming back for seconds and thirds. Dietz & Watson, it's a family thing since 1939.
Reverend Tyler, with November 3rd around the corner, do you know how you'll be voting this year?
Dr. Callahan, I requested my mail-in ballot, and I'm returning it the day it comes in the mail.
That's perfect, because we can't leave anything to chance this year.
Already received your mail-in ballot? You're just a few simple steps away from turning your mailbox into a ballot box. Here's how. After selecting your candidates, place your marked ballot into the small secrecy envelope and seal it. It's a 2-envelope process, so then you'll place the small secrecy envelope into the larger one. Make sure to seal that one too. Sign and date it, and then it's as simple as dropping it in your mailbox. No postage necessary, or returning it to your county election office. And if you still want to sign up to vote by mail or find out where to drop off your mail-in ballot, visit votespa.com.
I'm not waiting until November 3rd. I'm returning my mail-in ballot the day it comes in the mail.
Or you can return your ballot to your county election office.
I've got my plan. Make your plan to vote today.
Paid for by Power Interfaith.
What's up, Philly? It's Sincerely Sarita. The school year is underway, but never before has that experience come in so many shapes and sizes. Is the education of your child being left to a smattering of clumsy in-person and virtual instruction? The COVID-19 crisis has created a market for untested virtual teaching models lacking true credibility. Maybe it's time to reconsider and exercise your choice. Maybe it's time to check out Commonwealth Charter Academy. Here are the benefits to your family. 1, an online education provided at no cost to you, complete with laptop, headset, and help with internet access. 2, partnership with the market leader in cyber education with a nearly 20-year track record of world-class learning. And 3, delivery of a safe, reliable, and comfortable education experience over the internet directly to the confines of your living room. Visit ccaeducate.me today and discover the gold standard of cyber education. That's ccaeducate.me.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. Before we get our next guest on, which I am excited to talk about the show coming up tomorrow afternoon about Leon H. Sullivan, let me finish with Reverend Joe. Reverend Joe, are you there?
I'm back. Thanks for letting me get back in. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. You got cut off while we were talking earlier. What's going on, sir?
I got a cheap phone. It ran out of battery with that. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir.
Okay. I was saying was the CIA killed Bob Marley. I don't know if you ever knew that story. They gave him a pair of new books with a nail in it with poison. That's how he died. Anyhow, I would love to see the black folk in this country have the same pride Jamaicans have, because I used to work in Jamaica. And I think one of the reasons it cripples black people in America is welfare, because there's no welfare in Jamaica. So that's
there is none, right?
Pride, and I think that's one of the reasons. And the other thing,
yeah, but hold on one second, Reverend Joe. There is no welfare in Jamaica, but I tell you what, we encourage entrepreneurship and we encourage taking care of small businesses and giving people a leg up and making sure that they, that we support what's going on there. So
That's what I'm talking about.
It just seems like the system here is so designed in ways to keep us downtrodden, which is why I want all of you to listen to the show tomorrow from 12 to 2 about a giant of a man that was in our community doing the work. I never got to meet him in person, but even my husband spoke of Leon H. Sullivan and how he met him when he was in junior high school. Yeah. And Leon H. Sullivan walked into his classroom and said, I am getting ready to put together a place called Progress Plaza, right? And my husband never forgot him, right, all these years later. And I think we need to continue to highlight people like Dr. Sullivan, who created, you know, Bill Brother Bill, Bill Sister Bill, like really remind us that we have the skills and the tools and the talents to do what we need to do to move forward, right? Agreed.
I worked for him, so I know what you're saying. I thought for OIC, he was quite a man. And last but not least, we have a back-to-school conference we do every Friday at 1 hour. It's called Black to School, because if we know the greatness of black people, maybe that would give the pride back to some of the people here, especially our young people. I just found out the other day a black engineer, or a female engineer, invented the GPS system. Tell you where you're trying to go, you know, the GPS.
Yeah, we didn't know. Yo, you just found that out. Yeah, so we did know that it was a black woman that did this, yes.
So that's it. So we do that we keep doing it every Friday with Dr. I Joy and some more people, giving people stuff they don't know. Because I think if they know our history, what we have been through with how great we are, that might would change something. But thank you for letting me get in to do all this stuff. And you have a great weekend. You're doing a great job.
You too. Thank you so much, sir, for calling in. Love you. Bye-bye. All right. Right now we have Wendell R. Whitlock, Board Chair Emeritus of Progress Investment Associates. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I am good, thank you. You and I are going to discuss the program that's happening tomorrow. Can you give people a taste of what will be happening from 12 to 2 tomorrow afternoon on behalf of Leon H. Sullivan?
Well, my understanding from your station is that it will talk about him and the significant accomplishments economically, community-wise, that he made, and the impact he's had on not only Philadelphia, but the world.
Yes, yes. I am learning a lot about him in recent days. In fact, months ago, when I first heard of him, and it's a sin and a shame because I've lived here for 30 years, and I only learned of him earlier this year, and began having a series of conversation on WURD radio about him. I learned that he was instrumental in the abolishment of apartheid, that he helped Bishop Desmond Tutu, that he was the person that not only helped to get, that they started like these little, we call them partner in Jamaica, but like little business investment groups in the church, and that led to people investing in United Bank. Is this all sounding familiar, sir?
Some of it, yes.
Some of it, right.
But what I'm most familiar with is his role in the abolishment of apartheid in South Africa. It was called, he developed something called the Sullivan Principle. And he used his bully pulpit because he was a member of the board of General Motors. And during those times, General Motors was, of course, a much more significant power economically worldwide, in the United States and worldwide, than it is now. And what he did was he got the American companies who were doing business in South Africa, to agree to the Sullivan Principles, which said that the native South Africans, if they were hired by these firms, they would be paid on par with the white South Africans. Now, I said native South Africans because black folks were there before the white folks even knew it was there. So the Sullivan Principles did have a significant impact on eliminating apartheid because economically it gave the native South Africans or the indigenous tribes in South Africa the economic clout of making the same as the white folks.
Tomorrow is his birthday, and from 12 to 2, We will be talking all things about him. I have had conversations with some of the members that are going to be on the panels for the discussions tomorrow. And the more I learn, the more impressed I am. I remember when the rioting was happening, I was out one particular day doing some coverage, some news coverage. Not riot, I want to call it rioting. I want to call it protests. There were protests happening, and then looting began. And they were looting everywhere but Progress Plaza. The Sullivan Progress Plaza was left largely untouched. And to me, that was a testament to this man and all that he had given to us in this community. So we're going to talk about all of that tomorrow afternoon. Is there anything else you'd like people to know for them to tune in tomorrow, sir?
Well, I think you've encompassed the majority of the idea for the program tomorrow. But I would like to touch on something that you mentioned a couple of times about yourself. Most people in Philadelphia don't know enough about Reverend Leon Howard Sullivan. Now, recently, the mayor erected a statue of O.V. Caddo in the City Hall courtyard, and I applaud him for that, because O.V. Caddo was Octavius V. Caddo was one of the pioneers for black rights in the city. And as many people as know about O.V. Caddo, I'd say less than 1% know anything about Reverend Leon Howard Sullivan, who came along much later than O.V. Caddo, but was no less an influential person in race relations throughout the world, not just Philadelphia and this city. And people in this city don't know that. And that's the fault of us, the Philadelphia school system, the black leaders in Philadelphia, black politicians in Philadelphia, black people in Philadelphia, who need to do more research on who Reverend Dr. Leon Sullivan was. Progress Plaza is just one of the efforts, just one.
So I have to tell you that this morning, after having 3 separate conversations, that I decided on my show, The Source, every month we're going to do a segment on the Reverend Dr. Leon H. Sullivan, because it won't stop if we don't take up the mantle and do something. So I am going to highlight him once a month, every month leading forward, and finding specific guests to come in and talk about, you know, who he was, what he has done, how he has impacted lives, to the place where we're still, you know, we're highlighting him tomorrow. But you're absolutely right. If someone had mentioned him in passing on WURD radio while I was hosting, I would not have known who the Reverend Dr. Leon H. Sullivan was. And to me, that's egregious, not for the impact that he has had in this city and in the world. So let's see what we can do to change some of that, shall we?
I wholeheartedly support that idea.
Oh, well, sir, we'll talk to you tomorrow at noon, from noon to 2 p.m. There'll be a special programming on WURD radio about the life of Reverend Dr. Leon H. Sullivan and everything and all that he has impacted locally in Philadelphia, OIC, the Sullivan Progress Plaza, the Sullivan Principles, and even apartheid in South Africa. Sir, I will talk to you tomorrow. You have a wonderful afternoon, okay?
Thank you. You do the same. And thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Oh, you're quite welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I am looking forward to this conversation tomorrow. I've had a few conversations this morning leading up to it, and I am super excited. One of the things that I want us to do in this city is not to forget the people that have actually done amazing work here to elevate the lives of those all around them. Because when we forget, then we sink back into the mire of there's nothing here for us, there's no jobs here for us. But the Reverend Dr. Leon H. Sullivan talked a lot about using what we have, our hands and our intellect, to create business plans and to start our own businesses and to grow. In fact, I learned in talking to someone today that Reverend Dr. Alan Waller followed those Sullivan principles, and that is why in part why Enon Tabernacle Church is where it is and the size that it is, because he's followed everything that he has done. That Dr. Leon H. Sullivan used basketball to bring people in and got them to talk about, from fighting with gang wars and stuff. He used the sports to bring them in and then got them to sit down at the table and talk. A remarkable human being. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we will be right back after these messages.
Joe likes to say that character is on the ballot, and it's true. But let's be clear. This election is about building this country back better. And that's exactly what Joe and I will do. Bring back critical supply chains so the future is made in America. Build on the Affordable Care Act. And finally, offer caregivers the dignity, the respect, and the pay they deserve. We'll protect a woman's right to make her own decisions about her own body, root out systemic racism in our justice system, and pass a new Voting Rights Act that will ensure every voice is heard and every voice is counted. We have a chance to choose a better future for our country.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
According to the radical left, Kathy Barnett isn't supposed to exist, let alone be a candidate for United States Congress. See, Kathy Barnett is a black woman and a conservative. She spent 10 years in the Armed Forces Reserves. Kathy doesn't fit the victimhood mentality the left is selling. She grew up poor, and despite the odds against her, she built a good life. She loves America, and that's why she's running for Congress. Kathy Barnett not only exists, she lives the American dream.
I'm Kathy Barnett, and I approve this message.
Philadelphia, old, young, and all in between. We've got to get out and rock the vote in this election. We have the power to make a difference, but we cannot make that difference without your vote. Vote by mail or vote in person. Our vote is the voice that will save our lives. This message is sponsored by the Leon H. Sullivan Charitable Trust.
Hi, I'm Dr. Heidi Seropoulos. If you're on Medicare, you should know that many Independence Blue Cross Medicare Advantage plans have a $0 copay for primary care physician visits and telemedicine medical doctor visits. All our plans have $0 in-network COVID-19 testing and treatment and the largest network of doctors and hospitals in our area.
Call 833-848-0762 today. TTY-TDD 711. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Or visit us online at ibxmedicare.com/doctors. Independence Blue Cross offers Medicare Advantage plans with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in Independence Medicare Advantage plans depends upon contract renewal. Independence Blue Cross offers products through its subsidiaries Independence Hospital Indemnity Plan, Keystone Health Plan East, and QCC Insurance Company, independent licensees of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association.
Home of the Happy Hour. With Sincerely Sarita. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Streaming live at WURDradio.com and on the WURD Radio app. You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. Listen, tomorrow afternoon from 12 to 2, we're talking about the Reverend Dr. Leon H. Sullivan, and it's a conversation that I'd like you all to join us in. We want you to call in to talk to us about any memories of him, what you've experienced knowing him. I feel kind of, gypped that I didn't get to meet him in person, but I know so many people who knew this giant of a man who died of leukemia after doing so much and creating such a difference with his people. And I just want to tell you all this. Reverend Dr. Leon H. Sullivan created a difference because he dared to believe that his voice would make a change. Oftentimes we sit in our little parts of the world and we allow people to tell us to be quiet. not to speak up about that which we care about, to just go along and follow along. And I'm here to tell you, you know, if you want to be different, if you want to be someone that is not going along to get along, if you're not concerned about whether people like you or not, or whether it's a popular thing, or you know, whether you get invited to, come on. I have learned in my 50-something years of life that when you stay steeped in authenticity, that which is for you will come to you. Not anything more, not anything less. And when things are stripped away from you, count it all joy and say, you know what? I was not meant to be in that particular place and time. And it'll be okay. It all works itself out in the end, right? And if you have children that have voices that are don't try to knock it out of them. Don't tell them that they can't be or they can't do, because that's not what the world says. If we all follow what the world is doing, you see where we are right now in the world? Do you see where we are, right? So I really want us to try to find our own spaces where we can be authentically ourselves and continue to stay that way. No one appreciates anyone who is unkind, who is self-serving, and who only thinks about what they want out of this life, right? The people that have made a marked difference in this world, and one of those people is Dr. Lomax. I met him some years ago in a friend's backyard. Did not know it was Dr. Lomax. The man was so unassuming and so humble. It was the day that he died that I realized that the person that I was talking to that day was Dr. Lomax. That's what I'm talking about. Someone who doesn't walk around with, you know, the importance on their backs. And I learned sitting in that backyard that he was someone who cared about people. I learned how much he loved Jamaica. I learned he just sat down and talked to me. And that particular day with some of his best friends, all of whom have now passed away, he looked at me and he said, part of the reason why we're having the trouble that we're having right now in this country is that we failed your generation. We worked hard and we made all this money and we made life easy for folks, and we didn't really teach you all the principles. And so he says, whatever we can do now, we're going to have to work hard at it. And in his passing, Dr. Lomax, I learned how much he loved people, how much people loved him. Kathy Hicks talks about him like he was the gem on earth, how he treated his employees well, how he just treated people well. And when you do that kind of stuff, and when you walk in that kind of authenticity, he was able to leave a legacy behind where people like me and Sincerely Sarita and Solomon Jones and Charles Ellison, all of us are able to sit and have a conversation on a radio station that he was able to acquire because of how well he treated people and he walked in those principles. I'm going to try and find out if he and Reverend Dr. Sullivan were friends or knew each other, because they walk similar pathways. And so walk in your truth. But when you walk in your truth, always treat people well. Remember that I told you that, because everything after that. Anyway, I'm going to the news of the day. You can call in to talk to Mother. There are no more guests today until 4 o'clock. So 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. I have expected Woody to call in by now. I haven't heard from Maurice in North, from Northwest. From North, I cannot go say Northwest, Maurice would hurt me. From North recently, so I hope Maurice is okay and doing well. See, I remember Miss Mary, all of the people that called in here, Miss Viola, you know, the WURD listeners, you are important to what we do. You know, we can't be off the for the people and not off the people, right? And so we try to remember that we're steeped in who you want us to be, what you expect out of us, and to give you the kinds of programming that elevates what's happening in this city beyond us talking about shootings and mass murders and debunking of our communities and not having good education. We try to highlight the education bright spots in this city. Education is huge, because without it, I grew up under the premise that without education, you can't do anything else. And education doesn't always mean going to a 4-year college. Education means learning a skill, right? And mastering it to the best of your ability, so that when someone is looking for someone to do that particular job, they can say, yep, call so-and-so, because guess what? That person is the best at what they do. Call such and such, because guess what? That person is the best at what they do. And so my mother would always say, even if you are a sanitation worker, be the best sanitation worker there is, right? Take pride in what you do, and it will always come back for you. Bob from West Philly, are you there?
I am.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. What can I do for you?
Well, I would be a lot better if we had 5 Reverend Sullivan today working in this city and in the world, try to make a better place for our young people. People think of him as a Philadelphian, and he was, but he worked around the world, specifically in Africa and in the United States. But he made a difference in a lot of people's lives, and you know, it seems like a lot of the stuff he worked on has kind of fallen by the wayside. People don't even know what he's still doing here in Philadelphia with the different opportunity places that are still being run by his foundation. So I wish more people knew more about him. He wrote a book called Build Brother Build many years ago. That if we could just put that book into working right now, the black community in Philadelphia would be a lot stronger. And it talks about getting into the construction business and bringing young people in it and you know, building careers and stuff like that. And we haven't done it yet. We get less than 1% of the construction jobs in the city, and with a majority population. So we dropped the ball.
So who is standing up in the gap of Reverend Dr. Leon H. Sullivan? Because what I knew from what I am learning about him, he didn't just lead and didn't teach, right? He left principles behind. What in tarnation happened?
They lost the vision. People lost the vision. And I think maybe the people are, I don't know. There's a lot going on with our community, in the black community in Philadelphia, where we're the majority in a city that some people are prospering just fine here, but for some reason we're not making it happen for ourselves. And he was about that. He prospered himself. His family has prospered as well. So he got it, and he helped a lot of other people prosper. But we just need the new Sullivans out there. We really do. I don't know who they are, but we need more.
Well, let's pray that as we highlight him, because I am now making a commitment to highlight him at least once a month on my radio show, right? That as people learn about him and as I read about the Sullivan principles, that it may spark Reverend Dr. Leon H. Sullivan out of a young person who didn't know about him because no one was speaking much about him these days. And maybe we can spark that, right?
Yeah. I think we would do better knowing more about him than a Martin Luther King, honestly. Just because he was, you know, well, they leave out all those parts of Martin Luther King, too. Martin Luther King was about economic empowerment, but for some reason that's never mentioned in any stories or anything about him. He was about economic empowerment for African Americans back here in this country as well. I think Dr. Leon Sullivan was more on the ground actually making it happen, and that's why it was effective. And, I mean, his ideas were great. Progress Plaza, now that place, which is, I believe, no longer part of that organization, that land is super valuable. Just the land itself, let alone
the land itself, not to mention the stores that are on it. You're absolutely right. It's called the Sullivan Progress Plaza. Yep. Yep. I'm excited. I'm excited to have this conversation tomorrow. But thank you so much for calling in, Bob. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. So listen, I need to clear something up. I used a term on the air just now when I said that I had never met the Reverend Dr. Leon H. Sullivan and that I was gypped. A friend of mine, this is why I tell you, I have the best quality friends. Do you understand? A friend of mine wrote me and said, I heard you use the term gypped while speaking about how you hadn't met or learned about Reverend Leon Sullivan. I was a good and grown woman before I learned that gypped is an ethnic slur. I had no idea. We said it all the time when I was a child here in Philadelphia, but it is a horrible slur against the Romani people. And so I will never use that again. See, when you know better, you do better, right? So don't use that word, people. I used it as a lot growing up as a child in Jamaica, and so it was one of the things that that's in my lexicon that is now out of my lexicon. Will not use that anymore. I was telling a friend of mine that I ride bicycles with all the time, Lisa. I said, Lisa, one of the things that helps us to grow is that when we learn things, when we learn new things, we have to unlearn the old things so that we can relearn and do better. This was one of those instances for me. So thank you, Karima Bushnefa. I appreciate you, honey, keeping my mother out of out of the fiery furnace. All right, let's see. Diane, are you there?
Yes, Mother, I love you.
Hi,
sweetie. I appreciate you, speaking truth to power. I really do. Thank you for all what you do.
Oh, you're welcome.
You were talking about Dr. Lomas. That is a great, great family. Like you said, he is the most humblest man I've ever seen in my life that have so much and don't show off,
Yep.
And when I went to the symposium, he'd sit back there like us, like he was like, a regular person,
Yep.
And watch his children run the program. And he spoke to everybody,
Yes.
He spoke to everybody, the rich, the poor, and everybody. I remember one time I went to a symposium. It was, I forgot the man's name. He was from Detroit. He was doing things in Detroit. I forgot his name. But anyway, we went there, and me and my son, because I'm blind, my son was with me, and we were sitting right across from Dr. Lomax and Kenny Gamble and someone else. And my son said, they look like rich black men. My son was like in 11th grade.
Yes.
But it was so nice. And then Dr. Sullivan, matter of fact, I did a report on Black History Month in my blind program. Every February we do a report. I did a report on Dr. Lomax and his family, and then I did a report on Dr. Sullivan. And one thing about Dr. Sullivan, he did, what's that, the 1035 plan in his church. His members gave money every month.
Yes.
And they raised money for Progress Plaza, and also there were beautiful apartment buildings on Girard Avenue. And also, he's the creator, he's the founder of OIC. When he came to town, I can't believe he was from Virginia or what, but he seen black men standing on a corner. And this was in the 50s. And he said he had to do something about that. And then he made a training program that's still here today for black men and women can get training. But he was a great man. And one more thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to be quiet. Tasty Kate. Tasty Kate didn't hire blacks. So he was like, he was the reason why Tasty Cake took him black. He didn't want to, the CEO of Tasty Cake, they didn't want to talk to him. And so you know what he did? He went to the churches. He said, I know black people love Tasty Cake.
Tasty Cake.
And let all your members to stop buying Tasty Cake. And guess what? They stopped buying Tasty Cake, and that's how black people got into Tasty Cake. But he did a lot of good work, Mother.
Thank you so much. I love hearing these stories. It just warms my heart because, we're in a time where, nobody wants to be given constructive criticism. We're soft-shoeing folks, we don't want to hurt feelings. And I'm like, if we're going to, leadership means that we are standing in the gap for whole groups of people, not for our own self-interest, right? And so for me, it's, if you can't take a couple of hard questions, if I'm looking at you and I'm saying to you, this city is falling down, and we have the dubious distinction of being one of the poorest large cities in this country, hey, then everybody has to come to the table and says, you know what, we're sitting in these political seats, we're sitting in these leadership seats, we're sitting as church leaders, we're sitting as business and community leaders. How are we going to remove that dubious distinction from our city and start finding ways to lift up the people around us, make sure that jobs are available, teach people skills, put them in the union, even if we're going to give 10%, 10% is more than absolutely nothing, right? You want the killings to stop in our city, you got to start doing something better. So yeah, that's where I am. Thank you so much for calling in, Diane. Let me see, who do I have left? Lord, the calls are coming in. Mabel from Cherry Hill. Mabel, are you there?
Hello, this is Mabel Wellborn from the Sullivan Trust.
Oh, hi, Mabel!
Listen, I want to thank you for all that you're doing. I am in Cherry Hill, New Jersey right now with one of my sisters that's not doing well. But I'm looking forward to tomorrow. And I am also looking forward to the follow-up that you will be doing to elevate the legacy of Dr. Sullivan.
Yes, yes. I felt like, I felt his spirit talking to me when I was talking to the folks this morning. I'm like, why are we not doing this? Why are we not elevating this man and teaching his principles so we can help more people in this city?
So, Andrea, you and I will have some follow-up conversations about how we can make some of this happen from the Sullivan Human Services Center.
Okay, okay.
And I love you for all that you're doing, and I look forward to spending some time with my colleagues tomorrow as we celebrate Dr. Sullivan's birthday.
Yes, ma'am. You have a good one. It's good to hear your voice. I know we didn't get connected because COVID happened and everything was up in the air. But now, see, it's working out, right? I'll be able to talk to you.
We're going to make up for that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
It's so good hearing your voice. Oh, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye. All right, let's see. I now have Mary. Mary from Mount Airy.
Yes. Good afternoon, Andrea.
Did you hear me mentioning your name, Mary?
Yes, I did. And I want to thank you for being kind and welcoming for people that call into your show. You know, I was discouraged. I wasn't going to call in yesterday because I called into one of the show hosts and I held on the phone. He took all the male callers and didn't answer my call. And I felt like, I know I can be controversial sometimes, but people need to realize we need to hear every opinion.
God is good. There you
go. And I feel as though, especially white people in this country, they need to know that we have honest people in this country, you know, that willing to work and pay their taxes and accept people no matter what color of their skin. You know, because I remember doing a job for the state. I didn't care what color you were. If I knew that I was in a position to save your life, then that's what I was going to do, you know, and I just have to thank you, you know, but I had called the show host yesterday regarding the crimes that's occurring in Philadelphia, and I believe it's behind, because they put a lot of our children on this these drugs to suppress their activity.
Their natural energy, yes.
Right. And a lot of those drugs have side effects, and the teachers actually place children on these drugs throughout the country. And now we're looking at the effects where they had did studies on marijuana, and they're saying that it causes the gray matter to deteriorate in your brain, and it's no reversal for this. You know, and I think this is what we're going to find out later on, that the people are going to come out, the doctors are going to come out, just like they did with tobacco, cigarette smoking, you know, which basically we still don't have the results of secondhand smoke and the damages that it has done to people's lungs who never even smoked before. So we need to realize we need to have all the facts before we place our children or make it welcoming for recreational promotion for marijuana and any other drug that basically white people are going to benefit from. And if you work on a job, this is what they're going to test you on. This is one of the reasons why all the governors said that they had to go outside the state to hire people in Philadelphia, because the majority was on marijuana, all these mind-altering drugs. And I remember Corbett, he did an article in the Inquirer and the Daily News indicating this. This is why that we were listed as deported
Oh, you're welcome, Miss Mary. You know, your voice matters, right? This station is for our people, for black and brown people. We have to treat each and every person that calls here with a modicum of decency. We may not agree, right? But we must treat people well, all the same. It's imperative, all right? So enjoy the rest of your day, okay?
You too. Thanks a lot.
All right, my sister. All right, bye-bye. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we will be right back after these messages.
Joe likes to say that character is on the ballot, and it's true. But let's be clear. This election is about building this country back better. And that's exactly what Joe and I will do. Bring back critical supply chains so the future is made in America. Build on the Affordable Care Act. And finally, offer caregivers the dignity, the respect, and the pay they deserve. We'll protect a woman's right to make her own decisions about her own body. Root out systemic racism in our justice system, and pass a new Voting Rights Act that will ensure every voice is heard and every voice is counted. We have a chance to choose a better future for our country.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
The pandemic is not only putting everyone's health at risk, it's also impacted our jobs and retirement security. And it's disproportionately affecting African Americans, especially those 50 plus. That's why AARP Pennsylvania is fighting for your voice to be heard. If you haven't voted yet, now is the time to learn about your voting options and cast your ballot. We're working to make sure you can vote safely, whether you choose to vote from home or in person. And if you choose to vote by mail, make sure you return your ballot using both envelopes. Your ballot goes in the smaller envelope for secrecy, and that goes into the larger envelope for mailing. Also, don't forget to sign the voter declaration on the back. Your voice matters. Make sure it's heard. Go to aarp.org/PA votes to learn about your voting options and how to vote safely this election. Visit aarp.org/PA votes today. Paid for by AARP.
The time is now to put an end to the chronic incompetence of Donald Trump and his League of Liars. Donald Trump makes a mockery of the institution of the presidency. He's polarized our country, and his dangerous policies must not continue. Joe Biden has the character, empathy, and experience to lead us through these challenging times. He helped lead the nation out of the 2008 financial crisis into the longest period of economic growth in our history, and he can do it again. As president, he will heal divisions and unite us around the shared values of justice. He'll create opportunities for quality education and good-paying jobs, and he'll build on the Affordable Care Act, not tear it down. While Donald Trump thinks coronavirus and climate change are a hoax, Joe Biden already has a coronavirus recovery plan and a strategy to create more jobs while also tackling the climate crisis. Vote for a president who will stand on the right side of history. Vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Paid for by Black PAC and Priorities USA Action. BlackPAC.com and PrioritiesUSAAction.org, which are responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. This just in. I need to read this to you from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Health officials say they are preparing for a fall resurgence of COVID-19, but there are currently no plans for mitigation measures such as stay-at-home orders or additional business closures. Secretary of Health, Dr. Rachel Levine, says Wednesday that the resurgence has already appeared to have started in the state. For the 10th day in a row, Pennsylvania recorded more than 1,000 new coronavirus cases on a day on Thursday. There have now been a total of 177,520 cases and 8,432 total deaths in Pennsylvania since the start of the pandemic. Cases nationwide are on the rise too, Levin noted. And so, you know, we talk about this all the time, right? And I'm going to keep saying it because I think people have become really lax. You know, I'm not telling you don't have your party. I'm not telling you don't do it. Wear your masks. Do it outside. stay away from people. When we went walking last Sunday and it was really cold outside, we could see the air, the cold air filtering up from up over our mask and up way out into the distance. And we're like, oh, that's how this virus spreads, right? We think when we're talking because we can't see it with the naked eye. As I'm talking now, I can the air comes out past 6 feet, right? So you want to make sure that you stay away from people. Make sure you're cleaning your surfaces all the time. We need to buy stock in Lysol over here. I still take off everything that I have on when I walk through the door because they say that the virus lives on your clothes for 2 days. I will go into the studio and spray the chair with Lysol. They laughed at me, right, Mike? Mike is listening. They were like, oh my gosh, she's spraying everything. But I did. I sprayed the chair, wiped everything down, carried my own wipes, carried my own gloves, carried my own extra masks, carried my own Lysol. You know, we keep expecting people to take care of us. And yes, when we are going into places, we expect them to keep it clean. However, we have to be a part of our own health and well-being too, right? Mike said they did. And listen, was getting ready to bring in Lysol, spray cans of Lysol for Mike and Troy. Like, I am serious about not just staying healthy in my house, but making sure that the people around us are staying healthy too. And so my husband and I recently did COVID testing just to be on the safe side. We're waiting for our results. But look, we talk about this all the time. And after we took our COVID test, we were like, okay, let's separate, because my husband is asthmatic. And we have to be, you can't be overly careful. So if you're going to be out there doing what you do, practice common safety. And even if you think you do not have COVID-19, put on your mask, because there may be somebody around you that may be carrying the virus and do not look sick or do not feel unwell, and they may be asymptomatic, right? The cases are going up on the rise. We laugh in our house and say, for those of you who are just joining us on WURD and you've never heard me before on the radio, before COVID struck, for the last 2 years, I was hosting Sunday dinners in my house. Anybody who wanted to come could come. The only caveat I had was what happened in my house stayed in my house, because I had leaders from national and local leaders sitting here, as well as just regular folks, right, who would just come and sit at the dinner table. We didn't mention anybody's names, didn't mention what anybody did. We just came and break bread. And for 2 years, every Sunday, I would supply the main meal, the starch, the vegetable, the meats, whatever meats, you know, and I have these big, we call them immigrant pots, where I would make like 20, 25 pounds of meat, because I love to cook. It's therapeutic for me, right? And people would come and they would eat, and the only thing they would have to do is either bring a salad or bring a bottle of wine for those who like to partake, and bring a dessert. And we would sit there and we were building community every single Sunday. Well, since COVID hit, my husband was like, nobody coming in here till 2021. And well, after this week, we're like, no, nobody coming in here till 2022, right? Even if we had to have work done in the house, we made them put on these shoes. We made them come through a back door. Like, you can't trip trace through our house after being in other people's homes. Like, all of that makes a difference, y'all. I'm asking you to take better care of yourselves. Think better care. You walk out and you touch surfaces. You know, the virus lives on hard surfaces for a long time. Walk back in your car. Take a Lysol wipe and wipe everything down. Those of us in Jamaica who didn't know nothing about no Lysol, we knew that alcohol, white rum, you know, we had the 140 proof rum. When we were sick, that white rum, we would wipe it down and everything. Now everybody's spraying alcohol everywhere, you know, because when you're from a poor third world country, you learn what kills germs. With amazing alacrity. So it's all those things. I'm talking about Mike is talking to me and cracking up. So yeah, Mike was with me. Mike had his own thing. Mike and I, when we would leave the studio, we both would get out to our cars and spend time out there wiping everything down before we put it in the cars and drove away. Like, we took this thing seriously, and we continue to take this thing seriously. And even when you're doing the best of everything that you can with this virus, it's very likely that you could be around someone who you have no idea that have it, that can pass it on to you. I ride my bicycle and I carry 4 masks with me, and I'm interchanging those masks, because as Dr. Ayla told me, as they get wet, you change them out, right? You change them out. And you just want to make sure that you stay safe at all costs. You do not want to be a part of the thousands of people that have died, and you certainly don't want to be a part of the people who contract this virus, because while many people recover from it nicely, they are finding that months later, their long-term effects from this craziness, because they don't know exactly how it works, and it continues to morph. There are different strains of it now, right? So If you have not taken your flu shot yet, Dr. Ayla Stanford has been on the show talking about it. They did last week, Thursday, at the Winghocking Recreation Center. My husband and I were at Salem Baptist Church in Roslyn. There were quite a line out there. People were taking their flu shots and their COVID-19 tests. You know, just take care of yourselves. Go get tested just to be on the safe side. The flu shot is free. The COVID test is free. Don't sit around if you're not feeling well or if you suspect that you've been around someone who has been in contact with the virus and not get tested, right? Knowledge is power. So that's all I'm going to say about that. All right, moving right along. The Inquirer wrote a piece that Trump and Biden will face off in competing town halls on separate networks tonight. Call Mother and let Mother know which one you're going to be watching. 215-634-8065. My husband said this morning that as crazy as it may seem, a lot more people will probably watch Trump because they want to see it's like what do you call it? It's like a show that you just can't miss because you don't know what's going to come out of it. I will just say, I don't know. We'll see. We'll go between. It says NBC is taking heat for scheduling Trump's town hall at the same time as Biden's by Rob Tourneau, and it was posted today at 7:04 a.m. The Nonpartisan Commission of Presidential Debates made the decision to change the format for the second debate after Trump contracted coronavirus. Trump dismissed the idea of participating in a virtual town hall immediately, saying during a call into Fox Business, "I am not going to waste my time." Instead, the two separate town halls will begin at the same time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Biden's will take place in Philadelphia today at the National Constitution Center and air on ABC, while Trump's will occur in Florida at Perez Art Museum, Miami, and air on NBC, MSNBC, and CNBC. ABC announced its 8 p.m. start time on Saturday, while NBC didn't finalize its plans until late Tuesday night, according to network sources. As a result, NBC received a lot of criticism on Wednesday over the town hall overlap, including from former NBC news executive Mark, and I am not going to do Castlewitz, and Vivian Schiller, who called the move shameful on Twitter. MSNBC opinion host Rachel Maddow also hinted at the displeasure internally on her show Wednesday night, asking Senator Kamala Harris, California, "Are you as mad as everybody else? Is that NBC is doing a town hall with President Trump tomorrow instead of the debate at the same time that Vice President Biden's going to be on NBC?" I love Rachel Maddow. I love how she sticks to her principles. I love how she does her research. I love how she speaks truth. Her and Joy are just, two people that I watch all the time and just see what their nuances are. NBC didn't explain why it decided to schedule Trump's town hall at the exact same time as Biden's, other than to say it was following the same format and will air in the time slot as Biden's NBC town hall in Miami early this month. New York Times media correspondent Michael Greenbaum reported that NBC officials argued internally that moving Trump back to a 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. time slot will potentially increase his live audience, which they viewed as unfair to Biden, whose town hall will air at 8 p.m. Well, let's see. All right, moving right along. So you all decide what you want to do. You're watching the Biden town hall or the Trump town hall tonight. You can call in and let Mother know, 215-634-8065, if you care. Nationwide coalition of prosecutors, including Larry Krasner and Josh Shapiro, vows not to enforce anti-abortion laws. This is again from the Inquirer. This was written by Tom Jackman from the Washington Post, and it was posted October 15 today, 7:02 a.m. A coalition of more than 60 state prosecutors and attorney generals from across the country, including Pennsylvania's AG, Josh Shapiro, and Pennsylvania District Attorney Larry Krasner, declared Wednesday that they would not enforce laws which criminalize abortion, even if the Supreme Court overturns the 1973 decision that legalized it nationwide. The declaration comes amid the Supreme Court confirmation hearings for Judge Amy Coney Barrett, a conservative who believed many would vote to reverse Roe v. Wade if elevated to the high court. Barrett has declined to say how she would vote if a challenge to Roe comes before the court. The prosecutor's statement invokes the power of prosecutorial discretion, which many reform-minded prosecutors have used to reduce or eliminate prosecution of marijuana charges and other misdemeanors to reduce the disproportionate harm they can cause to nonviolent offenders. So let me just say this to all of you. So you can see, even when the Supreme Court may reverse a ruling, depending on the state that you live in, you may walk away from it relatively unscathed. And that is why elections matter. You want to vote for an attorney general. You want to vote for a district attorney. You want to vote for judges in the local and state level. You want to vote for city council people. You want to vote for mayors, your school board members, township commissioners. All these people make all the difference in the world. So when people are running for office and you ask them what their platform is, beyond what their platform is, you want to know who they are as people. What have they done in their past that would give you some sort of a clue in how they would behave in the future, right? All of those things make a difference, because now in Pennsylvania, right now, we have two people, a district attorney and an attorney general, who said that if the law is overturned, the 1973 law is overturned, that they will not follow it and will make sure that people are safe here. All of that makes a difference. Okay. So the other day, Lisa Kelly. The other day, I saw an article that was posted about Abington School District parents who were fussing and complaining that they wanted their children back in school, and that they were telling children to boycott online learning next week to force the school district's hand. Now, I did a little bit of research and realized that the school district in Abington, anyway, was going back to 2 days, some sort of hybrid learning. And so it led to question, what is happening here? So I posted the article, and people started responding to it. You know, there were parents who were like, we're not doing this. I don't know how this is going to happen. But in the Philadelphia school district, they plan to slowly phase in the option for hybrid learning. The school district was written by WPVI Philadelphia, Channel 6. The School District of Philadelphia has released its plan for students to begin a hybrid learning option next month. Driving forces behind the decision is that in-person education is superior to virtual education, and that goes double for underserved of our most vulnerable children, which are low-income and minority students. Dr. Evelyn Nunes, Chief of Schools for the district, says the district intends to move to that model the week of November 30th, but families will have the option to remain all virtual. Families of pre-K through second grade students will need to make a selection during a window of October 26th to 30th. If no selection is made, the student will remain at 100% digital learning. Let mother know, 215-634-8065. If you have children in school, are you going to be one of those parents who are willing to send your children back into a hybrid model, knowing what I just talked to you about, that the cases for COVID is now on the rise in the state of Pennsylvania? So let's see. So they're saying that the schools that are unable to implement this model due to building capacity constraints, staffing needs, or other challenges will implement an alternative model that better supports student safety, the district says. The proposed hybrid learning plan and timing could change due to factors including the number of teachers available to teach in person, school capacity constraints due to social distancing, number of families who choose to continue with 100% digital learning, and the impact of ever-changing COVID-19 conditions are all factors that will influence how, when, and if we can advance in-person learning. Somebody talk to me. And maybe I'm the one that's crazy. Our children are viable. Our children are special to us. And yet we see so many parents who are willing to put their children back in school despite all that we do not know about this virus. They're saying that a vaccine for it could be no sooner than spring of next year, and even then it would take some time for us to get to a place where, you know, the trials are working. They've stopped the trials quietly, and, you know, because of some things that people are getting sick on the trials that they're trying now. Johnson & Johnson, you heard me talk about that a day or so ago. So, like, how is it that our children are expendable? We keep saying that our children are resilient. I know I carried my children 32 weeks and 40 weeks respectively. Hello? I wouldn't do it. But that's just me. That is just me. You do you, right? But I've got to tell you that if your child gets sick, then what, right? You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we will be right back after these messages.
Have you heard about Penny? They make it easier than ever to get health coverage.
What if I'm self-employed?
Penny gets you covered.
Unemployed?
Penny gets you covered.
What about my family?
Penny gets them covered too.
But will this fit into my budget?
Penny can connect you to financial help to lower the cost.
Really? Where do I go?
Easy. Just go to PENNIE.com or call 1-844-844-8040.
Everyone's journey to their vote is different, but they all share the same first step. If you want your voice to be heard on Election Day this November 3rd, you must be registered to vote. It's easy, and there are lots of ways to register. You can do it in person, online, or by mail, but you have to do it by October 19th. To learn more about how to register and to make a plan to vote, visit PhiladelphiaVotes.com. However you want to vote, we'll help you find the way.
Join the NABOB, the National Association of Black-Owned Broadcasters, the U.S. Black Chambers, and the Power of Urban Radio for the 2020 Buy Black Conference. This 3-day virtual experience is October 14th through 16th and will feature interactive sessions with expert panelists, speakers, and industry leaders within advertising, programming, digital technology, financing, business development, and more. The NABOB has been the national voice of Black-owned media for over 40 years. They are the first and only organization representing the interests of African American owners of radio and television stations, as well as digital media across America. Visit BYBLACKconference.com. That's BYBLACKconference.com. Register using promo code NABOB and qualify for the chance to win free virtual admission. The 2020 Buy Black Conference is presented by the U.S. Army, AARP, Toyota, and Dentsu Aegis.
Reverend Tyler, with November 3rd around the corner, do you know how you'll be voting this year?
Dr. Callahan, I requested my mail-in ballot, and I'm returning it the day it comes in the mail.
That's perfect, because we can't leave anything to chance this year.
Already received your mail-in ballot? You're just a few simple steps away from turning your mailbox into a ballot box. Here's how. After selecting your candidates, place your marked ballot into the small secrecy envelope and seal it. It's a 2-envelope process, so then you'll place the small secrecy envelope into the larger one. Make sure to seal that one too. Sign and date it, and then it's as simple as dropping it in your mailbox, no postage necessary, or returning it to your county election office. And if you still want to sign up to vote by mail or find out where to drop off your mail-in ballot, visit votespa.com.
I'm not waiting until November 3rd. I'm returning my mail-in ballot the day it comes in the mail.
Or you can return your ballot to your county election office.
I've got my plan. Make your plan to vote today.
Paid for by Power Interfaith.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. There's a couple of other new stories that I'd like to read to you. One of them is from the Black Information Network. Breonna Taylor's boyfriend talks about shooting and more in a new interview. He interviewed with Gayle King yesterday. And he says, Breonna Taylor, this is written by, because I want to make sure I give credit to the people, Zuri Anderson. Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, speaks about what happened the night she was killed in an exclusive interview with Gayle King, co-host of CBS This Morning. Taylor, a 26-year-old emergency medical worker, was shot 7 times by Louisville police officers in her apartment home on March 13th. Authorities were executing a no-knock warrant up for Taylor's ex-boyfriend, Jamarcus Glover, for a drug investigation. In an interview recorded the day of the shooting, Louisville Police Lieutenant Sean Hoover claimed police identified themselves a couple of times and waited seconds before entering Taylor's apartment. So it was the 3rd time that we were approaching. It had been like 45 seconds, if not a minute, Hoover said, and then I said, let's go, let's breach it. Walker, who was with Taylor the night of the shooting, claims the police never identified themselves. I am 1,000,000% sure that nobody identified themselves, he said. When police knocked, Walker said he and Taylor asked several times who was on the other end of the door. It was dead silent in the house, he described. And it was 1 o'clock at night or whatever time. So it was always quiet. We live in a quiet place. So if somebody was on the other side of the door saying anything, we would hear them. There was no response, Walker recounted. So the next thing I knew, the door is flying open. He told King, adding that the police officer's sudden breach caused him to fire a warning shot. That's why I grabbed the gun. Didn't have a clue. I mean, if it was a police officer at the door and they just said, we're the police, me or Brianna didn't have a reason at all not to open the door to see what they wanted. During the incident, Officer Jonathan Mattingly was reportedly hit in the thigh. A ballistic report said there was no conclusive evidence his wound was caused by Walker's firearm. Authorities also found no drugs in Taylor's apartment, and Glover added that she has never been involved in drug dealing. That's why I never thought it was the police, because why would the police be coming here, Walker said. And so the broadcast was aired yesterday at 7 a.m. So it's one that I think I'm going to go back and try to find. Thank you, Julie Taylor. Julie Taylor says, hi, Andrea. As always, great program today. I'm not laughing at you for spraying Lysol in the WURD studio. I applaud you for being diligent with your heightened awareness regarding COVID-19. A few weeks ago, when watching WURD Radio on Facebook, I saw you spraying your chair down in the studio right after your program ended for the day before you left. I thought to myself, Andrea is not playing with taking all precautions in protecting herself and her colleagues from this deadly virus. Unfortunately, a lot of other people still aren't taking the contagiousness of COVID-19 seriously, and that's an understatement. Julie, yes, I agree with you, and I'm not playing. They can laugh if they want to. But I was spraying and Mike just said a thing with his, you know what, Michael Celestian, leave me alone. They laughed. I was spraying and wiping, honey. Mother was not playing. So there is, between the recount of Breonna Taylor's boyfriend and the police, is the truth. And so, you know, it's hard for black folks in particular to believe a lot of what is being said, because we're expected to just believe what the police officers say. But oftentimes we've seen time and again where lying happens for people to cover themselves after something bad took place, right? And so we heard that they were trying to find, and this was in the news, that they were trying to find all sorts of things on Breonna's boyfriend. We were looking for anything to make them justifiable for going into that apartment. And so it'll all come out eventually. But yeah, it's just, oh Lord. Being black is a metaphysical condition we haven't quite figured out how to live through properly yet, and I don't know if we ever will. Congresswoman Jahana Hayes met with racial slurs during a campaign event. Ryan Shepard wrote this. Jahana Hayes was holding an online campaign event when she was interrupted by disruptors hurling racial slurs. The Congresswoman from Connecticut recounted the incident on Tuesday through an in-depth Medium essay. This was again from the Black Information Network. Our fourth meeting starts, and about 10 minutes in, I hear "Shut up, N-word," Hayes wrote. I pause, not sure how to react, but I catch a glimpse of all the faces of the people who have joined the meeting. They are mortified, shocked, embarrassed, hurt, and I could tell they didn't know what to do next. The Congresswoman's online campaign event was intended to highlight her legislative work and promote her re-election campaign. As the incident developed, members of Hayes' communication team stepped in and removed each disruptor from the Zoom call one by one. 6 minutes of vile, disgusting, I say deplorable hate, and I am on full display as I process in real time what is happening, Hayes wrote. After learning about the incident, Zoom representatives stepped in to investigate the matter. Hayes' opponent in the upcoming election, David X. Sullivan, also condemned the incident publicly. It is appalling that a bigoted coward would direct insults at Congresswoman Hayes, interfere and disrupt a legitimate campaign activity, and besmirch the reputation of the good people of the 5th District of Connecticut, he stated. Hayes continued on in her essay by broadening the discussion to the overall treatment of black women in America, a conversation that is near and dear to my heart. Lord have mercy. The Congresswoman detailed the disrespect and harassment she faced in her own life, as well as the acts of discrimination she has seen others endure. Black women are expected to press on, to ignore this behavior, to not talk explicitly about it because it's uncomfortable, divisive, or does not reflect the sentiments of most people. Guess who don't care? I talk about it all the time. I have watched other women weather this storm and fend off these types of attacks and wonder if in their quiet places they have felt what I am feeling right now, she wrote. The most painful part of it all is that no matter what you achieve in life, no matter how many degrees you earn or how good of a person you try to be, all some people will ever allow themselves to see is a N-word. I told my children a long time ago when they were little, I said, people are going to expect very little of you, and some people are going to even expect even less than that. And as they grew, they started to see some of that happening. But what I would always say to them was this: you have a village around you that tells you about your history. You're steeped strongly in it, from your American side to your ancestry in Jamaica. We will teach you everything that we know. Don't get bitter, get better. The only thing we ask you to do is every time they come against you, continue to increase and do well at whatever it is that you touch. And that is what I gave my children, right? And so when life comes at them, they're able to call us, we're able to talk to them, walk them through the process. Oftentimes now, my children call not to complain or moan, but to tell us what happened and how they handled it. I was like, yes, 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 yes. So it's working out, I'm telling you. Chris from Connecticut, line 1, are you there?
Yes, I'm sorry if I'm off subject, but listen, I want to address this. Today's the anniversary, I don't know if anybody brought this up, with the Million Man March, the Minister Louis Farrakhan, Nation of Islam.
Yes. No, I did not know that. Thank you for bringing it up.
Yes, and with that being said, but I got to put this question. If voting is critical and pivotal in this election, what I need to do, and I'm hoping some members of the Brothers in the Nation of Islam, we need or asking, why aren't they participating in the voting process? So I hope that's not disrespectful, but can I get a response to that? Is that appropriate?
I don't know. I don't know why they're not responding. I don't know why they're not participating. Are they participating or just not participating?
In voting. Why aren't they voting?
Oh, I don't know, but I tell you what, I'm going to look it up. I will look it up.
I hope somebody's listening from the Nation of Islam, a member, to express that, because if we need to vote and we need all our black community to vote, then that's a large segment in our community, and we need their contribution to the voting process if they believe in it. If not, then why not?
Okay, then, Chris, thank you so much. Let me see, there's anyone that listens to this show that's a part of the Nation of Islam and you want to answer that question, you're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. Have a good one. Maybe you are voting and we don't know about it, but if you're not voting, we'd like to know why, okay? So can someone call in and let Mother know? Not today, because the show is about to end in 2 seconds, 2 minutes. So and thank you, Chris, for calling in and asking that question. The Washington Post, I have to quickly do this. A white man said Black lives don't matter and then broke a black teen's jaw with a bike lock, federal prosecutors say. Father God. Devin Freeland Jr. and 2 friends were playing music while walking to the park lot in a waterfront park in Monroe County, Michigan, when they saw a white man walking towards them. Ends don't belong on this beach, he yelled at the boys who were black on June 6, according to a criminal complaint released this week. Mowat, 42, then grabbed a bike lock and struck Freeland, 18, in the face, said several witnesses. The blow knocked several of Freeland's teeth and shattered his jaw. Federal prosecutors charged Mowat on Tuesday with a hate crime for willfully causing bodily injury to an African-American teenager because of the teenager's race. If convicted, he faces up to 10 years in prison. I'm going to leave that there because I'm telling you, all I can say to our black and brown people right now, as you're moving about, as we get closer to these elections, pay attention to everything that's happening around you. Make sure you have ways to avoid being struck, and make sure you have ways to protect yourself. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Coming up next is Nick Taliaferro for his new show. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and I will see you when I see you. Goodbye.